Hey everyone. Hope you're all doing well. We're all about bringing high-quality web novel audiobooks to life, and most of our content is completely free to enjoy. Just a quick note, web novels and web novel audiobooks aren't the same thing. Simply reading a novel out loud doesn't always make for a great listening experience. That's why I go through multiple rounds of rewriting and careful editing for every chapter to make sure the narration flows naturally and immerses you in the story, just like reading it yourself. These audiobooks are not just direct copies of the original novels. I've adapted them for a smoother, more engaging experience. And to be fully transparent, these adaptations are made for commercial purposes, so some chapters are paid content. But don't worry, this process is fully copyright compliant. I do all of this because I truly love web novels and audiobooks. I'm a huge fan, and this story is one of my personal favorites. YouTube update: recently, YouTube flagged some of our content for including mature themes, realistic violence, and darker story elements. As a result, we've decided to stop uploading anything that violates YouTube's guidelines. If you'd like access to the full, uncut versions including the more intense or mature content, you can find them on our Patreon page, where we upload everything first. Available now on Patreon: I Am a Legendary Boss audiobook, Versatile Mage starting with the White Tiger Pendant, Naruto the Wind Calamity, the Necromancer is amassing troops like crazy in the apocalypse, the mighty dragons are dead, Naruto, leader of Hidden Grass Village, Naruto Uchiha's Unserious Saga, your lord has a screw loose, Apocalypse I can see the health point bar, killing monsters drops loot, Starsea Fleet Age of the Lord, my monster fuses everything, Naruto, I traveled with a max level account, Fate in Bleach Unlimited Blade Works, killed for 100 years in Hueco Mundo, Aizen invited me to Soul Society, the world conquest giving birth to become a god, my master only breaks through on the edge of death, Bleach the Invincible Slacker from Rukongai, Naruto's Special Shop, One Piece the strongest female pirate cruise, Reborn as Danzō's grandson, must I offend the entire ninja world, Naruto starting with snatching the Mangekyo Sharingan, Naruto Card King, in Hueco Mundo with Shindu template, Naruto the Hidden Danzō, my journey as 4th Kusagakure, Naruto Troublesome Ninja Haruto, Naruto the Hyuga Mastermind, Bleach the strongest Shinigami, Bleach the 5th Division Captain, Fate Ultimate Antagonist, Fate of DXD, Fate I Heard After Death, you can ascend to the throne of heroes, Fate DXD Archer Reborn, Fate beginning with Type Moon, a Berserk Heart, Fate Grand Order Insert, One Piece take the Uchiha clan to the Grand Line, One Piece don't worry, I'm a doctor, building harem and dungeon with monster girls, DXD, Multiverse the day-to-day life of the Sephiroth hero, I'm the bad guy but heroines are obsessed with me, in Naruto, I have an affair with Mikoto and Kushina, many children bring happiness, a shameless start, Naruto Reborn with a Tenseigan, Naruto sleeping invincible, One Piece, life choice ask me to kiss marine goddess Hina, reborn as the genius son of the richest family, start by eating jacket fruit model, jacket human devil fruit, the days of being the richest man in the ninja world, the Witcher and Madara Uchiha, villain I possess the dragon Yang Dao physique, all saintesses turns into villainesses, all beautiful girls want to stick with me, interdimensional farming in another world, Naruto from Hidden Leaf Village to One Piece, and more. Most of our content there is free, and it's the best place to follow and support our work. The default audio speed is set to 3x, but if that's too fast for you, just let me know, I'm happy to adjust it. Got a favorite web novel you'd love to hear as an audiobook? Drop a suggestion. I'm always open to new ideas. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter, X for the latest updates, new releases, and behind-the-scenes content. Thanks so much for your continued support and happy listening. Chapter 1 Survival Arena. Recently, our city's zoo experienced a disturbance when a small wild boar broke out of its enclosure and charged around, injuring 6 visitors, though thankfully no children were harmed. However, it's worth mentioning that this same little boar burst into the tiger enclosure and engaged in a rare fight with 2 adult tigers. Fortunately, thanks to the efforts of the zoo staff, the 2 seriously wounded Bengal tigers were rescued. Chuj, lying sprawled on the sofa, listened to the news on the television with an expression of disbelief. What kind of ridiculous news is this? Could it get any more far-fetched? A small wild boar injuring 2 adult tigers? Has your zoo's ticket sales dropped to an all-time low or what? Chuj curled up, sinking deeper into the sofa. His name is Chuj, an 18-year-old senior in high school with delicate features. While not as handsome as the legendary Panin, his clean and delicate face was the kind that made people feel amiable at first glance. He was currently at home resting due to illness. It was only 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and his parents hadn't finished work yet. Feeling too weak to do much else, he lay on the sofa watching TV. As for his cell phone, he only had access to it on weekends since he was facing what parents and teachers considered the most critical juncture of a person's life. Sigh, Other people rejuvenate feeling energetic and looking forward to the future, so why did I start my rebirth with a fever? Is this some sort of acclimatization issue? Chuj murmured to himself, his expression extraordinarily complex. He had just gone through a rebirth. Reborn at the age of almost 30 back to his high school senior year, he had been startled awake by his desk mate. Waking up from a nap to find himself surrounded by the classroom and the teacher was a shocking experience. The classroom, the teacher, the young faces of the students around him. Everything was unfamiliar yet familiar. Before he even had time to feel elated, he was overwhelmed by a sense of weakness, and his body temperature skyrocketed. In the end, he fainted. His father was called by the teacher and personally carried him back home. A day passed, and his high fever had not completely subsided, making him extremely uncomfortable. On the first day of my rebirth, instead of youthful vigor or business opportunities, I'm greeted with the heavy punch of a fever. As Chuj was reflecting, there was a sudden knock on the door. He propped himself up and staggered toward the door. It was probably a package for his mom or his sister, Chu Yining. When he opened the door, there was no one outside. Meow, the call of a cat caught his attention, and he instinctively looked down to find a small black kitten sitting on the ground, looking up at him with eyes like sapphires, which seemed very eerie. Where did this kitten come from? Chuj frowned in confusion. Just as he was about to bend down to pick up the black kitten, it suddenly pounced on him, clung to his right hand, and bit down on the base of his thumb. The piercing pain made Chuj shake his hand vigorously, and the black kitten was flung away, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Chuj stood there stunned. He blinked, making sure the black kitten had indeed disappeared, and the pain in his right hand also vanished. Looking at his hand, he noticed 2 tiny black crescent marks at the base of his thumb. There was no bleeding, just 2 tiny scars, as small as cat teeth. At the same time, his mind suddenly cleared, no longer feeling groggy. What's going on? Did I encounter a ghost? Chuj was astonished and felt a chill down his spine. If he could encounter rebirth, it wasn't too far-fetched to believe in ghosts and deities. People often say that black cats are supernatural, turns out they might be right. He quickly shut the door and returned to the living room. His family's house was only about 100 square meters, with 3 bedrooms. Besides the master bedroom where his parents slept, his and his sister Chu Yining's bedrooms were quite small, just big enough for a bed, a desk, and a wardrobe, leaving little room for anything else. Back on the sofa, Chuj inspected his right hand carefully, assuring himself that he wasn't seeing things. It couldn't really be a ghost. The more he thought about it, the more frightened he became. Even in broad daylight, he felt hair-raising terror. He quickly turned up the volume on the television and fully drew back the curtains to let the sunlight pour in. After watching TV for a while, he began to calm down. I'm probably overthinking it. Chuj stared at the television screen, muttering to himself. Before his rebirth, he had at least never done anything bad and had often taken in stray animals. If there was a god, they should know he was a good person. Good people have good fates. Ghosts and goblins, quickly leave. Wait a minute. Chuj suddenly realized that his high fever had subsided. He felt clear-headed, refreshed, and full of energy, making lying on the couch somewhat uncomfortable. He was overjoyed, quickly got up, and went back into the house to change his clothes. If he went out on the streets, he probably wouldn't encounter any ghosts. After jogging timidly out of the apartment corridor, Chuj let out a sigh of relief. The sunlight felt so warm on his skin. In the southern city on the brink of autumn, the big sun was still hanging in the sky. It wasn't too hot, nor was it cold, and the gentle breeze was very cool. It was a weekday afternoon, so there weren't many people around the community. However, under a nearby tree, a few elderly people were playing chess. With the influence of the fever gone, Chuj only then felt the beauty of youth. What should he do now? Chuj looked at his right hand, hesitating about whether he should go get a rabies vaccine or not. 10. 9. 8. Just then, a cold female voice sounded in Chuj's ear, startling him and making him look around, but there were no other people nearby. But the woman's voice continued to count down, causing his heart to panic and sweat to flow. He tried to remain calm and turned to run towards the corridor. 3. 2. 1. The survival trial begins. Now entering the survival arena. Chuj only felt the world spinning around him as he quickly fainted. He didn't know how much time had passed. When he woke up again, he was shocked to find himself lying on a couch in a tiny room that, apart from a couch and a coffee table, had nothing else. The walls seemed to be made of white jade. The room was very bright, causing him to squint. What's happening? Where is this place? Chuj frowned and thought, subconsciously looking for anything he could use to defend himself, sadly realizing there was nothing. At that moment, a projection suddenly appeared in front of him with 2 lines written, "You have been selected as a survivor of the survival arena." You have accumulated 877 virtue points from your past and present lives, which can be exchanged for survival skills. There are 14 minutes and 39 seconds until the start of the survival trial. Survival arena? Survivor? Virtue points? Chuja's heart pounded faster as he had read various novels, comics, and movies in his past life and knew quite a few wild ideas. From these keywords, he caught many pieces of information. The other side knew he had been reborn. Survival arena, could it be something like a battle royale? 100 people dropped on a deserted island, with only one survivor? He took a deep breath, curiously muttering, "Where do I exchange survival skills?" No sooner had he spoken, the image in the projection changed, displaying several lines of text. Forelimb strength enhancement, level 1, can strengthen one's forelimb strength by 10 points, requires 500 virtue points. Hind limb strength enhancement, level 1, can enhance one's hind limb strength by 10 points, requires 500 virtue points. Bite force enhancement, level 1, can increase one's fighting force by 30 points, requires 550 virtue points. Paralyzing venom, level 1, can paralyze an enemy, the effect depends on the enemy's size, requires 600 virtue points. Skunk venom gas, level 1, can repel enemies with a stench, requires 550 virtue points. Chapter 2 Nuclear Weapons. What on earth are all these things? Chuj frowned deeply as he looked at the screen before him. It didn't seem like a chaotic battle with firearms, but rather like animal survival skills. Was he supposed to struggle against animals? If it were just cats and dogs, that would be one thing, but if it involved male lions or tigers? Just the thought made Chuj shiver. No, I must stay calm. My virtue points might be related to adopting small animals in my previous life. This should be a slight advantage that I must capitalize on. Chuj took a deep breath, thinking to himself. He hadn't expected to encounter such a sudden change on the second day after his rebirth. He had even fantasized about starting a business, leading his family to wealth and prosperity. But fate had other plans. He began to carefully peruse the survival skills, and the top left corner of the screen indicated how much time was left until the first survival trial. Watching the countdown, Chuj, who had lived nearly 30 years, felt very anxious. As he scrolled down, he noted any survival skill he found appealing. When the countdown reached 2 minutes, he finally stopped. He picked out 3 survival skills he liked and decided to choose one to exchange. Speed enhancement, level 1, increases own speed by 15 points, requiring 600 virtue points. Body color change, level 1, a low-level chameleon's survival skill, allowing one to blend in with the surrounding environment, requiring 850 virtue points. Vision enhancement, level 1, enhances one's vision, requiring 650 virtue points. Speed goes without saying, the faster you run, the greater your chances of surviving. Body color change is a camouflage divine skill. Vision enhancement allows one to detect danger more easily. Chuj was caught in a dilemma. Beads of cold sweat the size of bins oozed from his forehead. He understood this decision could very well determine his fate. The word survival in the survival trial sent chills down his spine. When the countdown reached 30 seconds, Chuj made his choice, selecting body color change, level 1. He exhaled deeply and lay on the couch, enjoying the last moments of relaxation. But his heart was far from relaxed. He was preoccupied with thoughts of what was to come. When the countdown reached 0, that indifferent female voice sounded in the room. The first survival trial, random species, the difficulty of the survival arena is 1 star, survival time 24 hours, survive to become a true survivor and receive 100 survival points, killing an enemy rewards double, the deceased will be reincarnated as an animal in a zoo on Earth and will never be able to return to human form. Chuj's eyes widened in shock at the last sentence. What did it mean? Suddenly, he remembered the news he had seen before. That little wild boar. Before he could think further, he again felt the world spin, his vision darkened, unable to see anything. Initiating random selection of survival species, you have selected ant, you will now enter the survival arena. What the heck? An ant? Chuj nearly collapsed. He had guessed that he might turn into an animal, but he never imagined he would become an ant. How on earth was he supposed to survive? Any 3-year-old child could trample him to death. Suddenly, Chuj felt himself land. He slowly opened his eyes and saw darkness, with a point of light ahead. He instinctively moved and discovered he wasn't standing on 2 feet but was lying on the ground, with 6 legs. Humans fear darkness, so he hurriedly rushed towards the point of light. He was surprised to find that he was moving fast. So light. Much more agile than when he was a human, this speed made him feel like he was a gust of wind, even Bolt couldn't match him. Striding along as if flying. Arriving at the end of the darkness, Chuj slowed his pace. He carefully poked his head out, and after adjusting to the bright light, He was stunned. This is a bedroom. What came into his view was an enormous room, with a wardrobe like a mountain, a desk like a cliff, and a bed with pink sheets spread out like a plane. It was his first time to see such a gigantic room. More accurately, he had shrunk. The whole room looked like it belonged to a girl, with many dolls placed on the headboard and bookshelves, and 3 family portraits hanging on the wall. The girl in them looked only about 10 years old, dressed in a white skirt, with twin ponytails, and very cute. Where's the enemy? I've become an ant and joined the survival arena, so the other enemies might also be ants, or other kinds of insects, like cockroaches, flying bugs, maggots, spiders. Chuj silently thought, and just the thought of spiders gave him goosebumps. In his view, the other survivors could only be insects too. If they were to become a cat or a dog, that would render the survival competition meaningless, completely devoid of any suspense. Something suddenly occurred to him, and he turned his head sharply to look back. This should be a crack in the wall, with the darkness within seeming to hide primordial fierce beasts, making his heart tremble. He subconsciously wanted to stay away from the hole. But his instinct told him that landing on the ground was even more dangerous. What if the room's owner suddenly came back? What then? No matter how fast he ran, he would get stepped on and killed. From a normal person's perspective, seeing a small bug, most would probably want to crush it to death. With that in thought, he suddenly felt a sense of sorrow. Being an ant really was frustrating. Afterward, he began to observe his surroundings, wanting to spot other insects. In his mind, he prayed not to encounter a spider. He was most afraid of spiders, especially the thought of being caught in a spider web and waiting for death, which sent shivers down his spine. He quickly saw a small cockroach darting out from under the bed. It rushed towards the door, moving very fast, then slipped through the gap beneath the door. How sneaky, trying to escape the room. Chuj lamented inwardly, being a cockroach was better than being an ant. The speed of the cockroach was much faster than his. At that moment, the small cockroach scurried back through the door gap and quickly slipped under the bed. The door was then pushed open, and a cute British short-hair cat walked in. Chuj's eyes widened, muttering to himself, "Is this the boss?" Normally, such a massive beast could only be manipulated in his arms, but looking down now, the British short-hair was like a small hill, intimidating to even look at. The British short-hair cat quickly dashed under the bed. To Chuj, its speed seemed unstoppable. He became even more convinced of one thing, never to touch the ground. Just 24 hours, and I can survive just by laying low. Chuj silently thought, completely ignoring the enemy-killing rewards mentioned in the rules. You've got to be kidding. In this survival arena, was there any survivor more trivial than him? Had he been a Bland, it would have been a different story. He could have at least compared to some cockroaches, but he was just an ordinary little ant. He looked back again. The crack in the wall wasn't very high, 2 ants like him stacked could reach the top. He calculated a bit, and not many small bugs should be able to enter this fissure. Staying here was the safest for him. He could overlook the entire survival arena while keeping away from the boss cat. I hope the other buddies don't all come out in a swarm. If they scare the owner of this room, then she might just deploy nuclear weapons. Chuj thought of another possibility and shuddered. Insecticide. Chapter 3: The Big Boss. Insecticide was absolutely lethal to the vast majority of insects inside the home. Every time Chuj thought of the homeowner using insecticide, he couldn't help but shiver. Stay calm. He had to remain calm. He struggled to keep his composure and continued to analyze what dangers might emerge. After a while, the British short-hair cat crawled out from under the bed, and Chuj noticed it seemed to be chewing on something. Could it be that little cockroach? That was just too tragic. Chuj swore he would never touch a British short-hair cat again. Too horrifying. The British short-hair cat, wiggling its butt, walked out of the bedroom, and the room fell silent once more. Chuj continued to observe his surroundings, estimating his height above the ground to be about 1.5 meters, given the desk diagonally across for comparison. Should he climb higher? His gaze shifted to the chandelier on the ceiling and the top of the wardrobe beside it. He couldn't see what was up there. What if there were big bugs waiting for him? Forget it. Chuj beat a retreat, lying low on the ground, waiting quietly for any changes. He had never been so nervous, glancing in all directions from time to time, fearing the appearance of an enemy. What made him most uneasy was that he did not know how many survivors there were. Time ticked by in silence. The only thing that gave Chuj hope was an electronic clock on the desk, which showed it was only 5 in the afternoon. Night was when insects truly reveled. While waiting, Chuj was not idle. He kept trying out his camouflaged skill. The method of use was simple. As long as his body tensed up, he could blend in with the surrounding environment, becoming one color. Once his body relaxed, he would exit the camouflaged state. It had to be said, this was definitely a divine skill. In the face of danger, who wouldn't be tense? Tension made it easy for the body to stiffen. About half an hour passed. Chuj suddenly noticed an ant on the left wall, like him a small ant, only slightly redder, crawling towards him quickly. His heart tightened, and he quickly lowered his head, body tensing as he turned the same color as the stone floor, entering a perfect state of camouflage. Unless someone came close and observed carefully, it would be hard to detect a little ant here. The red ant was getting closer and closer, seemingly confident in his position. Chuj tried to keep his emotions steady. He had finally been reborn and didn't want to die. He began to think of ways to deal with the red ant. Because the distance was too far, he could not be sure of the enemy's size in relation to his own. All he could rely on now was his camouflaged skill, to catch it by surprise. He moved his mouth's fangs, or more accurately, mandibles. The teeth were large at the ends but very fine in the middle. This would be his weapon to kill the enemy. At that moment, Chuj suddenly looked up, his body beginning to tremble. What did he see? A centipede. That centipede shot out from behind the wardrobe, its body black and the legs a reddish yellow, unstoppably chasing after the red ant. In the eyes of most people, this was just a small centipede, but to Chuj, it was definitely a primordial fierce beast. It's so unfair. Chuj was on the verge of tears, thinking that if centipedes had emerged, there must be spiders as well. And let's hope scorpions don't show up. This was not a bedroom in a modern city but rather seemed like the outskirts of a county town. Chuj started to doubt his surroundings, unable to discern anything from the interior decoration. Many rural homes were decorated no differently from city dwellings. When the red ant noticed the centipede behind it, it panicked and began to speed up, running around like a headless fly, and soon it deviated from Chuj's location within the crevice of the wall. Chuj broke out in a sweat for the red ant because the centipede was even faster. If this chase continued, the red ant would definitely be caught. Chuj's mind was racing, and he did not dare to show himself. Soon, both the red ant and the centipede rushed under the air conditioning unit, making it impossible for him to continue spying on the battle. 5 seconds passed. Suddenly, the red ant fell from the dark gap behind the air conditioner. Chuj couldn't help but mourn its fate. Serves you right for jumping. Don't you know to hide and lie low and bide your time? Seeing the tragic state of the red ant, he became even more determined to avoid this mission. It wasn't that he didn't dare to fight, the disparity in strength between him and the enemy was too great. Just then, he suddenly saw the red ant using its front 2 legs to cling tightly to the wall, sliding down to reduce its falling speed. Is this a handbrake maneuver? No. It's forelimb strength enhancement. Did this guy also have virtue points? Or could it be that it wasn't its first survival trial? Chuj was thinking fast, rapidly analyzing the situation. He noticed that the red ant's body was significantly damaged, half of its large abdomen at the rear was gnawed away, and it was missing 2 legs on the right side. It can be saved. Chuj quickly made a decision. Judging by the red ant's reduced falling speed, by the time it reached his height, the inertial force shouldn't be too great. Moreover, an ant's strength is tremendous, capable of lifting several times its own body size. The reason he wanted to save the red ant was that he needed a helper. Reliant on himself alone, he felt that his chances to survive were slim. If the red ant could gain forelimb strength enhancement and still react like that during a fall, it was definitely not ordinary. Someone who could gain virtue points in their first survival trial probably had principles or kindness, not purely evil individuals. With that thought, Chuj immediately burst out horizontally. The red ant's speed of descent was getting slower and slower, its 2 front legs grinding against the wall. From Chuj's perspective, it looked just like an action-packed scene from a movie. Chuj rapidly positioned himself below it, opened the 2 large pincers in his mouth, and at the right moment, he looked up and bit. He bit onto one of the red ant's left legs and dragged it to a halt. He pulled up the red ant and ran towards the wall crevice he had hidden in before. Are you a survivor? A voice of astonishment rose from behind Chuj, sounding like a man in his 20s. Chuj was stunned for a moment, and reflexively asked, You can talk? He had thought that ants couldn't communicate with each other. Now the voice that reached his ears was that of a human, and not just any language, but Huaxia Mandarin, which was incredible. Survivors can communicate with each other. That centipede was cursing at me earlier. Thanks, brother, for rescuing me. The red ant gratefully said, and when bringing up the centipede, it was filled with righteous indignation. Chuj did not answer and instead ran full speed back into the crevice in the wall. Meanwhile, in the space between the back of the air conditioner and the wall, the centipede's body remained hidden in darkness. It peeked out, coldly watching Chuj and the red ant enter the wall crevice. It did not pursue, probably fearing dangers within the crevice, and then retracted its head back into the darkness. After returning to the wall crevice, Chuj set the red ant down. The red ant was severely injured, but fortunately, insects have vigorous vitality, and it had not died, its body was still capable of movement. Chuge peered out to make sure the centipede had not followed, and only then did he feel at ease. Brother, this must be your first trial, right? You are truly a good person. The red ant lay on the ground, exhaling deeply. A good person card? Chuge silently thought, and replied, I saved you because I want to collaborate with you. We're both ants, and surviving on our own is difficult, let alone killing enemies to obtain rewards. Better to join forces. Chapter 4 Terror in the night. Red Ant rolled over, lying on his back, and said weakly, You're not bad for a newcomer, you have guts, and you understand the bigger picture. Right now, you and I are probably the weakest survivors in the game. To survive, we can only cooperate. Chuge's eyes lit up as he asked, Is this not your first time in the survival arena? Or are you saying that not only newbies undergo the survival trial? He knew too little about the survival arena, and now that he had encountered a veteran, it was like seeing an oasis in the desert. Naturally, he was excited. Since you saved my life, I'll tell you this, the origin of the survival arena is a mystery, no one knows it clearly. I have already gone through 2 survival competitions, this is my 3rd time. One can descend into the newcomer's survival trial by purchasing an initial trial scroll in the survival arena. The hard requirement is to become the lowest rank of creature in that arena, and your abilities will be suppressed to 1 star. To avoid breaking the balance, Red Ant began to introduce the information he knew to Chuge. Red Ant began introducing Chuge to the information he knew. Everyone who enters the survival arena comes from different backgrounds, and why they are chosen remains a mystery. Once here, one can only fight, especially during the first trial. If you die, you directly become an animal or insect in any zoo, insectarium, or nature park on Earth, maybe even a plant. To go from being a top-of-the-pyramid human to a confused wild beast or reptile is unspeakably cruel. It's much better once you get through the first trial. For subsequent survival tasks, there will be survival points, which can be exchanged for various survival skills and items. But if your survival points fall to 0, the outcome is the same as dying in the first trial task, you become a beast. Don't worry, though, few people choose to buy the initial trial scroll because it's too dangerous. Even veteran experts could have an accident, like what just happened to me. I was almost eaten by that filthy bug, which was also undergoing its first trial. It was damn lucky. As for you, you're just unlucky. Red Ant shook his head, feeling sorry for Chuge. For a newbie to become an ant in such a survival game is practically a nightmare difficulty. Chuge didn't despair and pressed on, Then how many survivors have you seen here? In his heart, he prayed that the centipede from before would be the big boss. About 4, Red Ant answered lazily. Apart from the filthy bug that was chasing me, a cockroach got eaten by a cat, a mosquito is hiding on the curtain, and a stilt-legged spider is behind the picture frame. Stilt-legged spider. This is just. The thought scared Chuge. The stilt-legged spider was a large spider that often appeared indoors, with very long legs that frightened many children. However, to humans, it is considered beneficial, as it specializes in hunting cockroaches found in homes, usually active at night. Generally speaking, the presence of such a stilt-legged spider indicates that there are too many cockroaches in the house. For humans, the stilt-legged spider is a beneficial insect, but for other insects, it is a nightmare. Especially for small ants like him. Why did you take such a huge risk to come here? Is there something special about the survival trial? Chuge continued to ask, while trying to control his emotions. He was suddenly feeling that maybe there was some sort of hidden rule in the survival trial. Red Ant clenched his teeth and cursed. I was fine not talking about it, but now that it's come up, it just pisses me off. As long as you can get through the survival trial unscathed, you'll get an extra 1,000 survival points. 1,000 survival points. Chuge's eyes brightened. No wonder Red Ant was willing to take such a risk. Doesn't that mean you can just stay low-key and avoid trouble? It's impossible. There are certain survival ranges and limitations on your activity steps in this rule. The specific rules can't be accurately predicted. Moreover, killing foes is a clear rule for gaining survival points. If you don't kill, others will try their best to kill you. Cowards won't last long here, only those with ruthless hearts and brutal natures can continue to survive. Newcomer, to repay you for saving me, I will try to help you survive the survival trial. However, I must warn you, don't easily trust others in the survival arena. You can't trust anyone here, Red Ant rolled over to advise, his eyes moving to the outside. The room beyond the wall crack was gradually darkening. Dusk was approaching. Chuge also noticed this and felt an internal tension. Compared to an average newbie, he might have an additional survival skill. If he used his change color ability well, perhaps he really could get through unscathed. In the survival arena, the night is always the scariest. It's fine when you're at home, but can you imagine the terror if you're in a park or by a river? Red Ant sighed as he spoke, his voice trembling slightly. Including this time, He had only experienced the survival competition twice and still hadn't completely adjusted, but in front of the newbie, he had to act confident. After all, who that had prospered would come back to participate in the survival trial? Chuj no longer asked questions, but considered how he would survive. After the time reached 19:00, the bedroom plunged into complete darkness. Chuj and Redant moved to the edge of the wall, vigilantly watching in every direction, hearts in their throats. Luckily for insects, even at night, they aren't completely blind. Generally, how many survivors are there in a survival trial? Chuj asked in a low voice, his gaze occasionally flicking towards the air conditioner on the wall. The terror of that centipede lingered in his mind. Redant answered, usually around 10 to 15. It looks like that cockroach earlier scared the other survivors into hiding. No one dares to come out. Cat people, really terrifying. Chuj fell silent. He hadn't expected so many survivors to be hiding in this bedroom. Time continued to pass. It was probably a while later. Mom, Dad, I'm back. I'll come eat right after I put down my bag. A girl's voice came from outside the door. To Chuj's ears, it was like a thunderous boom, jolting him. Redant was also startled, pressing himself to the ground quickly. Soon, the door was pushed open, and a girl in a school uniform switch/D on the light inside the room. Chuj looked up, and suddenly froze. This girl had fair skin and delicate features, a ponytail, and strands of black hair cascading down her cheeks. Dressed in a summer short-sleeved school uniform, she projected youth and vigor, clearly one of those girls who could be class or school beauties. Isn't that Tangzugia, his former deskmate? Is this her room? Chuj was thrown into disarray. Although he had just been reborn, the memories of his high school days were still vivid. He was still young before his rebirth. The last thing he saw before fainting yesterday was Tangzugia turning back with a flustered look. Humming a pop song, Tangzugia placed her bag on the bed, took out her phone, and sat down to play. Her legs swayed to the rhythm, visibly in high spirits. I hope she's a girl who likes to sleep with the light on. Chuj muttered, to which Redant nodded along. However, after a while, Tangzugia put down her phone, walked to the door to turn the light off, then went out for dinner. Damn. Chuj and Redant both cursed in their minds. Chapter 5, The Formidable Enemy Attacks. Change color. All we can do is pray she gets back quickly, and hope that she is a high school senior. Redant lay on the ground, murmuring weakly. Darkness descended once again, stirring up panic in his heart. Upon hearing this, Chuj's eyes lit up. Tangzugia was indeed a high school senior. So was he. High school seniors never finished their homework, with multiple papers every day and reviews to do. This meant she wouldn't go to sleep before 12 a.m. after dinner. Studying by lamplight until midnight, this was the mantra of countless scholars. They began to wait, cautious and anxious. About an hour passed. Tangzugia finally returned to her bedroom, giving Chuj and Redant a sigh of relief. When they saw Tangzugia holding her British Shorthair cat, they both shuddered. Especially when they saw the British Shorthair licking Tangzugia's face, they nearly felt nauseous. The British Shorthair had previously eaten a cockroach. And that cockroach had been a human. I will never keep cats in my life. Redant mumbled, and Chuj nodded in agreement. Tangzugia played with her British Shorthair for a while before she began to take out papers to review. The British Shorthair lay at the edge of the computer desk, scanning the room with its innocent cat eyes, but when its gaze swept over Chuj and Redant, they both felt a chill in their hearts. Cats are believed to be psychic by the older generations. They had never felt such a thrill when they were human. Calm as water, like the lord at the top of the food chain looking down on all beings with contempt. Chuj sighed inwardly. I can't believe I'm being scared by a domestic cat. What a disgrace. He tried to adjust his mood, knowing well that he absolutely couldn't afford to be afraid in the survival arena. To fear was to lose. Time continued to tick away. Unwittingly, it turned 10 p.m. Tangzugia was still diligently working on her papers, while the British Shorthair was deep in sleep. Redant suddenly turned, looking towards the depths of a wall crevice. What's wrong? Chuj asked nervously. To him, the crevice seemed only wide enough for ants and shouldn't pose a danger. Redant replied, there's danger. After all, I've survived 2 survival competitions. My survival skills are not just a 1. With that, he crawled out towards the crevice. Chuj was stunned for a moment, but after some hesitation, he followed. Even though Redant was seriously injured, the insect's vitality was strong, and he climbed up the wall with Chuj right behind him. Both were nervous, stopping after intervals to look around warily. Now that they were so small in size, they faced many obstacles to their vision. A piece of paper on the wall could conceal an enemy, making them invisible. Chuj looked back, his body trembling with fright. Out from the crevice where they had been came an oval-shaped bug, its shell segmented, many small legs underneath, and 2 longer antennae in front. The entire creature was a grayish-white color. Was that not a rat woman? Chuj quickly calmed himself, having not heard of rat women eating ants. To humans, rat women were as insignificant as ants, often crushed to death. This bug was still relatively common in human dwellings, often found in dark, damp places. Could it be that Tangzujia's home had a leaky wall? The moment the rat woman saw them, it charged at them. Run. This creature is an old-timer too. We can't treat it like an ordinary rat woman. Red Ant shouted, leading the rush upwards. Chuj wasn't about to act carelessly and started sprinting with his ant legs. Quickly, he surpassed Red Ant. Damn it, can't you slow down? Red Ant yelled, his tone somewhat tragic and indignant. He had been bitten by a centipede and lost 2 legs. How could he possibly outrun Chuj? Chuj certainly wasn't going to actually stop. Although they spoke of cooperation, at a moment like this, he did not want to be dragged down by Red Ant. Rat Woman was fast, even faster than they were. No way. If this keeps up, I'm going to die. Chuj's mind worked like lightning, rapidly considering his options. His gaze landed on something above. There was an area with shredded paper, the ruins left behind after tearing posters. He climbed desperately upwards, but Rat Woman was simply too fast, closing in on them at a visibly alarming rate. Damn it. Does this Rat Woman have speed enhancement? Angry curses came from Red Ant behind him, but Chuj couldn't afford to pay him any attention. Right before his eyes lay the paper shreds, Chuj quickly positioned himself behind a piece, tensed his body, and turned white, perfectly blending in with the paper scraps. Soon, Red Ant scurried past him, dragging his halved abdomen and desperately climbing up, a sight that tugged at Chuj's heartstrings. Buddy, you're just unlucky. Chuj could only mourn for him in silence. As for sympathy, he couldn't afford to give it another thought. He was focused solely on how he might escape to safety. Rat Woman crawled past him without stopping, its sights set solely on Red Ant. Under Chuj's gaze, Rat Woman caught up with Red Ant, gave a forceful shove, and with a pained scream, Red Ant was sent flying, following a parabolic trajectory toward the ground. Would an ant be killed from the fall? Chuj was unsure, as he had never witnessed an ant dying from a fall. Rat Woman turned around, dashing towards the ground, clearly convinced that Red Ant wouldn't die from the fall. The battle raged on. In the distance, Tangzujia, who appeared like a giant, was still engrossed in her papers, completely oblivious to the life-or-death struggle happening in her room. Chuj's eyes settled on the British short-hair cat on the desk, hoping the boss wouldn't wake up. After Red Ant hit the ground, he quickly got up and dashed towards a nearby wardrobe. Rat Woman didn't dare to jump down straight away. Even though it could climb the walls swiftly, it was still outpaced by Red Ant. Chuj once again felt the tension of a life-or-death moment. At the same time, he felt fortunate for his own thinking. The change color ability truly was a divine skill. In this room, there shouldn't be any creatures with heat-sensing abilities like snakes, so he had a good chance to survive. Chuj decided to stay in this area with the paper shreds. He didn't believe Tangzujia would get up in the middle of the night to clean the wall. There's a cloud made by rain in the wind, a cloud made by rain. Just then, a melodious female voice rang out, the music so loud it struck Chuj like a thunderbolt from a clear sky. Cell phone ringtone. Tangzujia picked up her phone to answer the call, while the British short-hair cat beside her awoke startled, blinking its sleepy eyes hazily as it looked around. The Rat Woman, which was nearly on the ground, immediately stopped, motionless. Xiaoyu, why are you calling me so late? Tangzujia asked as she held the phone in one hand and the papers in another. There was no one else in the room, so Chuj could vaguely hear Xiaoyu's voice coming from the phone. Tomorrow is Saturday, let's go visit Chuj. Why should we visit him? We're not that close. You're so silly. It's a chance to go out and have fun. We're in our senior year, you still want to play? Aren't you afraid of not getting into a top university? There's a comic convention tomorrow, are you sure you don't want to go? Listening to the conversation between the two female classmates, Chuj was embarrassed. Sister. I'm right behind your wall, shivering in terror. Chapter 6 Brawl. Tangzujia chatted with that Xiaoyu for nearly 10 minutes before ending the call. For Chuj and Rat Woman, this period was absolute torture. Because the British short-hair cat was still awake, it lay on its front paws, staring blankly at the wall, seemingly lost in thought. To the survivors, such pure eyes were an indescribable horror at that moment. After hanging up the call, Tangzujia put down her phone, feeling very happy. She hummed a pop song while working on her papers. Strive to evolve, laugh since the animal world is too fake, ancestors have already polished away their fangs and claws. Her voice was pleasant, but the song left Chuj speechless. Isn't this just too fitting for the situation? Soon, the British short-hair cat fell asleep again, and Rat Woman continued her hunt, burrowing into the closet next to her. Chuj began to survey his surroundings. His gaze focused on the area behind the air conditioner and the picture frame. Behind the air conditioner hid a centipede, and behind that picture frame was a stilt-legged spider. Besides these, there were other survivors. For example, Rat Woman was an existence that Red and hadn't anticipated and had given the veteran quite a hard time. Now that 2 veterans have appeared, could there be a third? Chuge thought apprehensively. This survival trial was just too cruel. There was no fairness at all. If they were all a bunch of ants, there might be a chance of winning, but now there were centipedes, spiders, cockroaches, and he was just an ant, who could only win by relying on wisdom and endurance. He had to consider the worst-case scenarios, thinking more to avoid panic. Time continued to pass. After Rat Woman entered the closet, she hadn't come out again, and Chuge had no idea if Red Ant was still alive. Doing nothing while constantly tensing one's body was exhausting. To conserve physical strength, Chuge reluctantly exited his color-changing state. He lay on a piece of scrap paper, glancing in various directions from time to time. As 11 o'clock approached, Tangzujia stood up and took a set of pajamas from the closet before leaving the room. As soon as she left, the British short-hair cat also slipped out. Soon, Chuge saw a stilt-legged spider crawl out from behind the picture frame hanging above the desk on the wall. It was the size of a child's palm. To the average person, such a large spider was definitely terrifying, let alone for Chuge who was merely an ant. The spider's speed is very fast, definitely faster than me. I must keep an absolute distance from it. Chuge thought to himself, his gaze instinctively turning towards the gap between the air conditioner and the wall, unsure if the centipede was still hiding there. A little while passed. Suddenly, he spotted 3 cockroaches scurrying out from behind the curtain, chasing and playing with each other enthusiastically. The Rat Woman then bolted out of the closet, surprisingly attacking the 3 cockroaches that were much larger than her. A veteran who has mastered survival skills really is different. Chuge sighed inwardly and began to watch the battle, hoping to see these survivors fight to the death. The centipede from behind the air conditioner quickly crawled to the floor, frightening Chuge into immediately tensing up and blending in with the paper scraps. The 5 insects started a fierce free-for-all on the floor. Although Rat Woman was the smallest, she was the most ferocious, continuously charging at the 3 cockroaches and even heading straight for the centipede when it approached. Madness. Chuge muttered to himself, does that thing have an indestructible body? Rat Woman fought the centipede and 3 cockroaches without falling behind. Watching from a high position, Chuge observed intently, wanting to learn their combat skills. About 10 minutes went by. Rat Woman suddenly slipped away. The centipede and the 3 cockroaches paused, then scattered in different directions. The most tragic figure in this battle wasn't the cockroaches, nor Rat Woman, but the centipede which left behind several of its legs on the floor. Compared to the cockroaches, it was smaller, and it seemed to lack potent venom, which is why it suffered a lot. Footsteps approached, and Tangzujia re-entered, toweling her hair while walking in. She wore a cute pikaku nightgown, exposing a pair of pale and slender legs. The British short-hair cat followed behind her. As soon as the big boss arrived, all the survivors had to hide. Tangzujia sat on the edge of the bed, toweling her hair while humming a tune. The British short-hair cat, however, crawled under the bed, up to something unknown. Half a minute later, the British short-hair emerged, with a centipede in its mouth, its paws pinning it down so it couldn't escape. In a matter of moments, the cat had devoured the centipede. To Chuge, this centipede was like a train, but to the British short-hair, it was as thick as yarn, no big deal at all. Chuge couldn't help but mourn for it silently. He had thought the centipede would become one of the overlords of the survival arena, but it met its end so quickly. Clearly a novice, lucky but unable to seize the opportunity. After eating the centipede, the British short-hair licked its paws and then moved to Tangzujia's feet, giving them a light lick. Tangzujia shook her leg, teasing the British short-hair with her foot. Chuge felt a tingling on his scalp. He couldn't bear to watch. After playing with her phone for a while, Tangzujia got up and left the room to dry her hair in the bathroom. This time the British short-hair didn't follow her, its gaze was locked on a corner of the ceiling where a stilt-legged spider was perched. It just quietly watched the stilt-legged spider, silent as the grave. Chuge really wanted to know what the stilt-legged spider was feeling. Luckily, this British short-hair couldn't climb walls, otherwise, it would be done for. But why was this stilt-legged spider exposing itself by staying motionless there? Is it arrogant because of its superior abilities? If Chuge put himself in the shoes of that stilt-legged spider, who in the entire survival arena would he be afraid of? All these emotions could only be turned into a sigh. Why did I have to become a little ant? It's so unfair. As Tangzujia's footsteps approached, the stilt-legged spider quickly scurried behind the curtain. It seemed this fellow knew the principle of not showing off against the wind. Upon entering the room, Tangzujia closed the door, ready to go to sleep. Suddenly, she walked over to the window, preparing to draw the curtains. As she pulled the curtains, the stilt-legged spider fell to the floor, startling her as she instinctively looked down. Ah! A piercing scream shattered the night, causing Chuj to shudder all over. A flurry of footsteps came from outside the door. Chuj was so nervous he immediately changed color and didn't dare to move. Soon Tank Zujia's parents rushed in. What happened? Zhao Jia, are you alright? Facing her parents' queries, Tank Zujia hurried back to the door, pointing at the wall and exclaiming, Spider! A big spider! The stilt-legged spider could only hide on the ceiling, trembling, keeping away from the ground. Tank Zujia's father, with glasses and a loose-fitting robe, pushed his glasses up and chuckled. This type of spider is beneficial. It shows that there are many cockroaches in the house. It shouldn't be killed. Chuj nearly fainted. Uncle, please just kill it. Oh my, just get it out of here. I'm scared. Tank Zujia stamped her feet in frustration. Her mother was scared too, berating her father with her. Under the urging of mother and daughter, Tank Zujia's father had no choice but to take a broom, open the window and force the stilt-legged spider out. The stilt-legged spider was clearly a newbie. As soon as it saw the window open, it rushed straight out. It missed out on the hidden reward of the survival trial. Chapter 7, Flawless Clearance. After the stilt-legged spider was chased away, Tank Zujia calmed down, and her parents comforted her with a few words before closing the door and leaving. Yet the girl was still very scared and kept holding the British short-hair cat. That night, she dared not turn off the lights, wrapping her body with a blanket, occasionally glancing at every corner of the room as if there were ghosts lurking about. Chuj, on the other hand, was amused, relaxed his body, and revealed the form of an ant. The centipede was dead, the stilt-legged spider had fled. His chances of survival had increased significantly. There you go, he saw the red ant crawl out of the wardrobe and head towards the area with the paper shavings where he was. The red ant was very small, and Tank Zujia couldn't see it at all. Not long after, the red ant arrived near Chuj. He cursed under his breath, that rat woman is too strong. She's definitely been through more than 5 survival competitions. Is it worth it for 1,000 survival points? Is it fun to wreak havoc in Newbie Village? He's been enhanced all over, as hard as an iron ball. Chuj had an epiphany. No wonder that guy could fight the centipede and 3 cockroaches alone. He indeed had an indestructible body. He laughed and said, are we safe now? As long as this continued, he would be able to pass without injury, and receive the hidden reward. The red ant nodded and said, only that rat woman has some combat power, the rest are newbies. We should be able to get through the night safely. Having said that, he suddenly became envious. This kid doesn't seem to be hurt at all. Damn it. The red ant was overwhelmed with grief and anger and wanted to push Chuj down, but remembering that the kid had saved him, he could only hold back. Ah, I spent such a great cost to buy the initial trial scroll, only to end up. Ugh. I admit my bad luck, said the red ant resentfully. Chuj comforted, surviving is what matters most. The red ant could only think that way, and sighed, let me formally introduce myself. My name is Jaof, my survival entity is a parrot, and from now on, we are brothers in adversity. If one day I find a good path and get recruited by a survival team, I'll definitely take you with me. Survival entity? Survival team? Chuj was confused and quickly asked what he meant. Jaof patiently explained, as he saw it, Chuj would surely soar high after passing without any injury, as 1,000 survival points during the rookie period could change one's fate. After passing a survival trial, each person will awaken a survival entity, which is generally selected at random, though some survivors are chosen by other survivors to participate and will inherit the biological branch of the other. That case is rare, though. Subsequent survival competitions are conducted with your survival entity. If you encounter creatures like lions, tigers, king cobras, forest pythons, or elephants, it's an absolute nightmare. Survival teams are a feature of the survival arena. Survivors can spend 10,000 survival points to form a survival team. After a few survival competitions, the leader can recruit members. Within the survival team, all are companions you can entrust your life to, so the thresholds of various survival teams are very strict. Once you join a survival team, the chances of survival are even greater. After hearing Jaof's introduction, Chuj became more interested in the survival arena. Jaof seemed to want to open up to him, revealing information that he had not disclosed before. The survival challenge task occurs once a month. Survivors can freely enter and leave the survival arena, but you cannot talk about any information related to the survival arena in reality. Once you disclose it, you'll vanish from the face of the earth. The survival entity is extremely important. Bigger is not always better. You also have to consider the growth cycle. The growth time of a survival entity is linked to the real world. For instance, if your awakened survival entity is a tiger cub, to grow into an adult tiger, how many survival competitions must you go through? Alf continues to introduce Chuj to the situation in the survival arena. Chuj couldn't help saying, even a tiger cub isn't bad, at least it's stronger than a British shorthair. You have a point, cough. Alf choked on Chuj's words and said righteously, newbie, don't think too much. To select a lion or tiger right from the start requires incredible luck. Do you know how many tens of thousands of survival points the bloodline of these creatures is worth? Don't dream impossible dreams. Chuj kept silent, understanding this truth. The survival entity is basic, while survival skills are enhancements. How strong would a tiger with the strength of an elephant be? Also, lions, tigers, and elephants aren't the top survival entities. Do you know of any other more freakish survival entities? Alf opened up and became more and more excited as he spoke. Chuj asked curiously, giant python? Killer whale? Great white shark? Blue whale? Alf shook his head, making Chuj sit up straight. Could it be? His breathing began to quicken. That's right, dinosaurs. But those are just legends, I can't touch that yet, don't know if it's true. Just think, if you took the Tyrannosaurus Rex as your entity and purchased those survival skills, after returning to reality, everyone would be a superhero. Who could stop them? Alf said excitedly, his antbody trembling along. Chuj took a deep breath and asked, survival skills can be taken back to reality? His current survival skill was body color change. Was he going to become a color-changing superhuman? Pa. What a silly name that would be. That's right, but survivors don't dare to mess around. If things get too big, even the strongest survival skills will be suppressed. Alf nodded and then added with emphasis, brother, when you go back you mustn't do bad things. I've figured it out, this survival arena is definitely a test from the heavens, otherwise why would there be a setting for virtue points? No good comes from evil deeds. Upon hearing this, Chuj couldn't help but laugh and teased, wow, I didn't expect Brother Alf to have such righteous principles. Of course. Alf replied with a proud smile. The two chatted merrily on the pile of paper scraps. Gradually, Tangzugia too fell into a deep sleep. In the wee hours, with a British shorthair cat standing watch, the other survivors didn't dare to make a move. However, Chuj and Alf didn't dare to sleep. For young people, staying up all night wasn't a big deal. The night passed. Morning came. Chuj suddenly felt a bit drowsy. At that moment, the previous cold female voice rang in his ear, as more than half of the survivors have died, the survival trial is ending early. Chuj was stunned. Ending early? Alf next to him was also taken aback. He sighed and said, Brother Chuj, let's keep in touch often. Remember my cell number, 718XXX74741. Before Chuj had a chance to respond, everything went dark, and he felt the world spinning around him. When he opened his eyes again, he found himself back in the small white room. He didn't feel joy but instead breathed a sigh of relief and then collapsed onto the sofa. Finally back. Chuj showed a faint smile. At that moment, a light screen appeared in front of him. You have successfully completed the survival trial and earned 100 survival points. As you did not sustain any injuries during the survival trial, you earn an additional 1000 survival points. Your total is now 1100 survival points. The survivor's attribute panel is now open. Chapter 8, Awaken the True Self. African Lion. Survivor, unnamed star rank, 1-star survival entity, awakenable survival skills, body color change survival equipment, none survival team, none survival points, 1100. Looking at his own attribute panel, Chuj's gaze locked onto the awakenable part right after survival entity. How do I awaken? He muttered to himself, a puzzled look on his face. As his words fell, a burst of intense light suddenly struck him. That mysterious and icy female voice sounded again, survivor begins awakening the survival entity. Since the survivor has been chosen by another survivor, the bloodline of the other survival entity will be inherited. Chuj suddenly felt a severe pain in his body, and he instinctively clutched his belly, then writhed and convulsed uncontrollably on the couch. In the midst of the light, his figure began to transform. You have successfully awakened as an African male lion. The detached female voice followed, and Chuj's pain receded like a tide. African male lion. Chuj was shocked. How did he become an African male lion? He thought of the black cat that had bitten him. Could it be a survivor too? But wasn't it a cat? At this moment, Chuj was utterly bewildered. The bright light dissipated, and a young lion appeared on the couch. This cub had light yellow fur, with browner hair on its head and neck and some black hairs on its body, no longer than 30 centimeters, much like a small domestic cat. It was Chuj. He gazed at his own lion paws, dazed, unable to snap back to reality for a long time. Had he become the lion that Alf envied? A vast surprise enveloped his heart. His heart started to beat faster as he sat blankly on the couch. "Please name yourself, survivor." The cold female voice rang out, interrupting his thoughts. He instantly snapped back to reality. After thinking for a moment, he said, "Chiyujiseki." He would use this name to remind himself never to take things lightly. Although he had survived the survival trial unscathed, it was mostly due to luck. As a cub, he wouldn't be as inconspicuous as a tiny ant anymore. Immediately, the attribute panel on the screen changed. Survivor, Chiyujiseki star rank, 1 star biting force, 2 forelimb strength, 8 hind limb strength, 9 speed, 3 physical strength, 5 survival entity, African male lion survival skills, body color change survival equipment, none survival team, none survival points, 1100. Chuj was overjoyed at the sight of the words African male lion. Once he grew into an adult male lion, he would undoubtedly be a boss in the survival arena. However, he remembered Jaouf mentioning that there could be dinosaurs around. He was not worried. Aside from the survival entity, the survival skills are even more important, like that rat woman, so showy. He examined his attribute panel in detail and started to analyze. What concept is a biting force of 2 points? Lions do not have the strongest biting force, at least compared to hyenas, tigers, crocodiles, and hippopotamuses. They are weaker. Unlike tigers, lions can become the kings of the savannah by relying on team combat. Male lions appear mighty, but after years of lethargy, their bodies are somewhat less robust compared to other fierce animals of the same size. However, he could become a male lion that exercises frequently. How do I now transform into a human form? And how do I exit the survival arena? Chuj was curious, and as soon as this thought emerged, a stream of memories flooded into his mind. At the same time, a strange heat flowed within him. After a while, he opened his eyes again, feeling overwhelmed with emotions. Now, by channeling the strange source of heat into his bloodstream, he could transform into a human form at any time. Furthermore, he could also turn into a lion in reality. The method was the same. He had to expel the strange heat from the bloodstream. He could control the strange source of heat effortlessly, as if it were an extension of his body. As for how to exit the survival arena, it was simple. Just think it quietly in your mind 3 times, and you could exit. The same was true for entering from reality. Free entry and exit had to be during a period without missions. This survival house was his exclusive room, and without his permission, no one could enter. After understanding this, Chuj said, "I want to see the list of survival skills available for exchange." As his words fell, the light screen in front of him suddenly changed. A list of survival skills appeared, so many that he was dazzled. Survival skills were divided by star level, and for now, he could only see up to 5 stars. For instance, biting force enhancement, level 5, can increase biting force by 6,000 points, requires 13,000 survival points. Speed enhancement, level 5, can strengthen one's own speed by 6,000 points, requires 14,900 survival points. Lethal venom, level 5, can poison most creatures below 6 stars, requires 13,999 survival points. Muscle ironing, level 5, harden muscles to the strength of steel, requires 12,999 survival points. Chuj almost drooled at the sight, knowing that these survival skills would also transfer to his human form. He currently did not understand what the point values here were based on. 1,100 survival points could be exchanged for lower, level 3 survival skills. For a young lion, enhanced strength would not be that impressive. Therefore, he focused his attention on physical strength and speed. Being able to run fast and for long was crucial for survival. He calculated that most survivors who went through the survival trial probably only had about 100 survival points, very few had 1,000 like him. Otherwise, why would the initial trial scroll exist? That meant other survivors of the same period could probably only exchange for level 1 or level 2 survival skills. He could exchange for 2 level 2 or 1 level 3 survival skills. The missions of the survival arena should be based on the same period of entry, otherwise, there would be no fairness. Wouldn't newbies be doomed if they met veterans who had gone through several missions? Just like this survival trial, the rat woman stood out from the rest. However, the presence of a veteran like her was due to the initial trial scroll. Even so, the veteran's strength was limited to 1 star. With this in mind, level 3 speed would make him as swift as lightning in the next survival competition. Chuj made his decision. He wanted to become a young lion that could run fast and change color. Just the thought was exhilarating. He did not make his decision hastily but continued to look through the survival skills. The strange and varied survival skills amazed him. The jumping ability of frogs, The lifting strength of rhinoceros beetles, the vision of eagles, the physical twisting force of pythons, the vitality of cockroaches, and so on. Survivor's strength, aside from specific attributes and star rank, how they were categorized, Chuj temporarily did not have the permission to know. After nearly half an hour, Chuj selected, Level 3, Cheetah Speed. It required 1,000 survival points and would grant him the speed of an adult cheetah. The top speed could reach 110 to 120 km per hour, equivalent to running 100 meters in just 4 seconds, or even faster. Such speed would give him a sense of security. When he chose to confirm the exchange, a beam of white light descended from the sky and shone on him. This time, he did not feel any pain, instead, it was quite warm. About a minute passed. The white light dissipated, and he felt as if he was brimming with power. To maintain high speed, a certain degree of physical strength was necessary, so all his data saw improvements. Chapter 9 The Young Lion Like the Wind Survivor, Chiudseki Star Rank, 1 Star Biting Force, 5 Forelimb Strength, 21 Hind Limb Strength, 33 Speed, 89 Physical Strength, 21 Survival Entity, African Male Lion Survival Skills, Body Color Change, Cheetah Speed Survival Equipment, None Survival Team, None Survival Points, 100. As expected. Enhanced speed also pulled along an increase in overall body strength. It's simple logic, the shell of a high-speed train can't possibly be made out of wooden boards. Chuj was pleased, yet he still wasn't clear about where his current physical fitness ranked. If only there was a training facility, he murmured, looking around. No sooner had he spoken than a line of text popped up on the screen before him. Would you like to spend 100 survival points to open the primary training hall? Chuj didn't hesitate and immediately chose to agree. 100 survival points wouldn't exchange for any decent survival skills, but a training hall sounded like it could help with training. In the real world, it would be impossible for him to frequently train in his lion's body. There was a month left before the next survival competition, and he had to make good use of this month. At that moment, a portal of light appeared on the wall behind the screen. Without delay, Chuj jumped off the couch and entered the portal. The next second, he arrived in a place as large as a basketball gymnasium, with a circular track in front. He estimated that each of the 2 straight sections was about 50 meters long. Along the edge of the track, various training equipment was present, a sandpit, a small grove, and even a steep cliff on the opposite side. The outermost layer was a glass wall covering the entire primary training hall, and beyond the glass wall was white light emitting a strong science fiction vibe. Chuj walked to the starting line of the track, ready to test his speed. At that moment, a 4-wheeled robot appeared beside him. It looked simple. A rectangular silver metal box with a screen on the front, which was currently displaying a stopwatch interface. TSK, it's pretty high-tech. Whatever I want, the survival arena can provide it? He exclaimed, slightly fearful at the same time. Who was controlling the survival arena from behind the scenes? A god? Or the creator? Could that being peer into everyone's heart? He took a deep breath and tried not to think too much. Right now, he couldn't resist the survival arena. The only thing he could do was to strive to become stronger, to ensure he kept on surviving. He bent his forelimbs, getting into the starting position for a sprint. Even though he was currently a young lion, he felt his limbs swell with power, as if he could leap a long distance with a single push, and the 50 meters ahead no longer seemed far away. 50 meters for a young lion, akin to 300 or 400 meters to an adult human. He was like a tense kitten, almost changing color. 3, 2. Chuj whispered to himself. When he counted down to 1, he forcefully pushed off with his hind legs, shooting forward like an arrow. At that moment, he felt as if an ant was sprinting. Moving swiftly and lightly. Different though, was the feeling of power filling his limbs. His feet felt as if they were skimming off the ground. Exhilarating. Soon, he had sprinted past the finish line of the straightaway. He stopped, turned around, and started to catch his breath. Such a sprint was still somewhat difficult even for an enhanced version of a young lion. The robot charged forward, its screen displaying a string of data: top speed, 7.5 meter per second, acceleration time, 0.89 s. It could run a maximum of 7.5 meters in a second. The top speed hadn't yet reached the peak speed of an adult cheetah, and it wasn't even as fast as some humans. Chuj wasn't dissatisfied. After all, he was still young and his speed would probably increase gradually. He hoped that in this month, he could enhance his speed to that of a cheetah. So it seems that 100 speed represents the running speed of a normal man, excluding most sub-healthy Otakus. Chuj muttered to himself. He was somewhat of a homebody himself, and he estimated that his speed probably wasn't even as good as that of his current young lion state. He suddenly thought of speed enhancement level 5. Increase 6,000 points in speed. What kind of speed is 60 times faster than a human? This is the speed of an airplane. Chuge's emotions surged, and he swore in his heart that he must obtain speed enhancement level 5. However, 14900 survival points weren't so easy to earn. Afterward, he returned to his survival house and continued to browse the light screen. The light screen became like a web page, with many lists appearing. As long as he wanted to look at one, the page would automatically switch. A whole hour went by. Chuge suddenly remembered the real world. Damn. I haven't disappeared overnight, have I? With this thought, Chuge immediately changed back to human form, then exited the survival arena. When he opened his eyes again, he found himself behind a large tree in the neighborhood, unnoticed by anyone. Looking at the sun, he guessed it was only around 7 or 8 in the morning. He looked down at himself. His clothes were intact, exactly the same as when he had entered the survival arena the day before. He immediately ran home. A few minutes later, he knocked on the door of his house, and a series of hurried footsteps came. Right after, the door opened, and his mother Han Yujun peeked out, her face anxious, with tears at the corners of her eyes. Upon seeing it was Chuge, she was instantly overjoyed and quickly pulled him into the house. You little rascal. Where have you been? Do you know we were worried sick? Your sister is worried about you too. Han Yujun said with a cry in her voice. After closing the door, Chuge saw his father, Chu Fikian, in the living room. He was sitting on the couch, his face dark as if he were a volcano about to erupt. Chuge felt ashamed and pretended to be aggrieved. I just felt too suffocated yesterday afternoon, so I went to the park nearby for a walk and accidentally fell asleep in the woods, just woke up not long ago. Hearing this, Han Yujun grew even more worried and reached out to touch his forehead, trying to feel his temperature. Chu Fikian scoffed coldly. Oh? Which park? Tell me, we might have searched there last night. Chuge felt the pressure and sighed internally. Can't I get a way out? Just the nearby Qingmai Park. We searched there last night and didn't find you. I was in the bushes, right behind that pavilion. Really? Of course, having been out in the cold wind all night, my high fever has gone down too. After experiencing the survival trial, Chuge became much more composed, bold even as he spun his lies. Although Chu Fikian didn't believe it, he didn't pursue it further. He got up, took out his phone, and walked towards the balcony, leaving a sentence behind. I'll let the officers know not to prepare the case files. Chuge was embarrassed when he heard this. He hadn't expected his parents had even called the police. At that moment, what he felt the most was warmth. Since going to university in his previous life, apart from holidays, he seldom returned to this home. Seeing his parents now, his eyes inexplicably began to sting. Chu Fikian cursed as he headed out, closing the door loudly, clearly still angry. But Chuge was moved to laughter. His father was a manager in a factory, with a salary that was not high, but enough for the family. His mother ran a laundry shop with just decent income. Looking at this home, Chuge clenched his fists, thinking to himself, I not only have to survive, but also must work hard to provide a good life for them. Chapter 10 The Speed of a World Champion. After explaining to Han Yujun for half a day, Chuge finally wasn't required to go to the hospital for a checkup, and he returned to his room to rest. Despite not having slept all night, his mental state was still very good, even to the point of being excited. It might be because the survival ability of cheetah speed infused him with an abundance of energy. Now, he was already beginning to contemplate his next survival challenge task. This entire morning, he had been searching online for encyclopedic information on various animals. He felt it necessary to watch some animal documentaries every day from now on. He had always liked small animals, so he thoroughly enjoyed watching these without any signs of boredom. At noon, Tang Zujia suddenly contacted him on the messaging app Idealism. Tang Zujia, classmate Chu, Songzio and I are representing our class to visit you this afternoon. Are you at the hospital, or at home? Smiling emoji, Chuge, no need, I'm already better, thank you. Clasped hands emoji, Tang Zujia, it's okay, we're just coming to visit you. We won't disturb you much. If it's really not a good time, we'll just leave you a fruit basket and leave. Laughing emoji, Chuge, really, there's no need. I'm about to call the teacher and tell him I'm all better and can go to school anytime. Striving emoji, Tang Zujia, classmate Chu really loves to study. Chuge looked at the conversation on his phone screen, his lips curving upwards. Wanting to go to the comic convention? Dream on. Telling me to turn off the lights. Telling me to keep a cat. I insist you study hard. After ending the chat awkwardly yet politely, Chuge continued browsing the internet. During this time, his older sister Chu Yining called to check on him. Chu Yining was in her second year of university, and because of Chuge's disappearance, she had hurriedly bought a ticket to go home last night. But since the school term had just started, Han Yujun had already asked her to cancel it. The entire day, Chuge didn't go to school and stayed at home obediently. After his rebirth, he didn't wander about. Whenever he had the opportunity, he would enter the primary training hall within the survival arena, earnestly enhancing his lion's abilities, while getting to understand the survival arena. The survival arena had many marvelous things. Aside from survival skills, there were various potions that could enhance all aspects of one's physical attributes, including intelligence, as well as language and knowledge potions. After taking them, one could directly master other languages and knowledge. Chuj became increasingly interested in the survival arena. In the new week, he honestly returned to school for classes. At school, he didn't act out of turn, nor did he flirt with the class spell or suppress the top students as in novels. Instead, he attended classes with earnestness. He wanted to make up for regrets from his past life. In his previous life, his academic performance was below average, and he failed to get into a good university for the college entrance examination, which saddened his parents for a while. The belief that education is useless is prevalent among many young people nowadays, but once you truly enter society, you realize the importance of a diploma. Of course, there are also many examples of people with low educational backgrounds who stand out. After all, there's nothing absolute in this world. Although Chuj was confident he could make money in the future, he also wished to fill the void left by the college entrance examination and make his parents proud of him. During class, he noticed a female classmate frequently glancing at him with a somewhat angry look in her eyes. He carefully recalled, and the girl's name came to mind. Songzio. The best friend of Tangzujia. It was her who invited Tangzujia to the comic convention. Chuj found it amusing inside and ignored her gaze, focusing on the lecture. In the end, Songzio was still a young girl. Her resentment came quickly and dissipated just as quickly. She and Tangzujia didn't settle any score with Chuj, nor did this lead to them getting familiar with him. They remained ordinary classmates with very little interaction. Time flew by. Over half a month had passed. Inside the primary training hall, a young lion was sprinting around the small field, and it was Chuj. His body was covered in sweat, twisting his fur into individual wet tips, but his eyes remained determined. During this time, he had often thought about slacking off, but whenever he remembered those cockroaches and centipedes that had died horribly, he would shiver with fear. He didn't want to be scared any longer. After running for a long time, he collapsed onto the ground, gasping for air. He murmured, "Check my attribute panel." As the voice faded away, a screen of line appeared before his eyes. Survivor, Chiudsiki star rank, 1 star biting force, 10 forelimb strength, 31 hind limb strength, 42 speed, 123 physical strength, 35 survival entity, African lion survival skills, body color change, cheetah speed survival equipment, none survival team, none survival points, 0. Not too shabby. Chuj was quite satisfied with his growth, especially considering his speed, which had surpassed that of most humans. Only world champions could compete with him. After resting for a bit, he logged out of the primary training hall and returned to the real world. It was now 4 o'clock in the afternoon. His parents were out visiting relatives, leaving him alone at home. He got up, took a set of clothes from the wardrobe, and then went out to the bathroom to take a shower. Half an hour later, he comfortably sat down on the living room sofa. The continuous improvement in the lion's physical condition had also enhanced Chuj's human body. He had tested and found that he could run 100 meters in a record time of 9.79 seconds in his human form. This speed was enough for him to compete in the Olympics. But thinking of those survival skills, Chuj felt it still wasn't enough. His future enemies would not be ordinary people, but powerful survivors. Suddenly, he remembered J. Alf. In the latter half of the survival trial, that guy had repeated his cell phone number dozens of times, ensuring that Chuj remembered it, even though he hadn't wanted to. He had been considering whether or not to contact J. Alf. It was easy to judge appearances but hard to see what was in the heart. What if J. Alf found him in real life and endangered his family? But upon further thought, he couldn't see any reason why J. Alf would do such a thing. After hesitating for a while, Chuj picked up his cell phone and dialed J. Alf's number. About 7 seconds passed before the other party answered the call. "Who's this? If you're a telemarketer, I'll have you know I'll curse you out, honey." J. Alf's carefree voice came through, leaving Chuj speechless. He immediately clarified his identity, and upon hearing it, J. Alf became ecstatic. "Chu brother, you've finally contacted me. I'm so touched, you're the first survivor to reach out to me." J. Alf's voice was very excited, even trembling a little. Chuj suddenly felt a bit regretful. It seemed he was perhaps a bit too naive compared to other survivors. He wasn't cautious and composed enough. "You've awakened your survival entity, right? What is it?" J. Alf asked curiously. Chuj replied, "African lion." "Hey. Trying to bluff me, newbie? A survivor who can awaken the lion as a survival entity is 1 in 100. Alright, I'm an orange cat. An orange cat? Not bad, still better than my parrot. Oh wait, I can fly and you can't. My chances of survival are still higher than yours, ha ha ha. Chuj chuckled to himself. Little brother, I'm actually your big brother, the lion you can't believe in. Afterwards, he steered the conversation towards the survival challenge task. In the real world, he could talk with other survivors about the survival arena, as long as no one else overheard them. At the moment, J-Alf was worrying about the next survival challenge task. Failing in the survival trial meant he had one fewer accumulation of survival competition experience than other survivors of the same period, which made him somewhat anxious. Chapter 11, Walk 20,000 Steps Every Day, Mission begins. After chatting with J-Alf for an hour, Chuj hung up the call. J-Alf was an old hand after all, and he could impart to him plenty of experience. During their conversation, J-Alf mentioned the survival team the most. If there was a survival team, one could join survival challenge tasks with companions, and the chances of survival would be greater. In the survival arena, going it alone wasn't going to get you far. Chuj, having heard a lot about it, became interested in the survival team. The lion is the king of all beasts on the savannah. With my status, it should be easy to join a survival team, but where should I look for one? In a survival challenge task? Chuj crossed his arms in front of his chest, sinking into deep thought. He imagined the various scenarios of joining a survival team. But he always felt it was unreliable. Joining others, he might well become a slave, or perhaps a human shield. Why shouldn't I create a survival team myself? Chuj had a sudden inspiration. A lion is a social animal and the king of the savannah, how could it submit to others? J-Alf wouldn't be bad. Worth considering. He shook his head and stopped dwelling on it. Whether he could survive the next survival competition was still an issue. In the blink of an eye, another half-month had passed. On the school's sports field, Chuj was warming up with the other students, his brow furrowed. Since last night, he had been restless. He was unable to check the specific timing of the next task inside the survival house, so he was afraid that the survival task would come suddenly. Today we will practice the 100-meter sprint in preparation for the autumn sports meet at the end of the month. This will also be your last sports meet. Normally there wouldn't be one for seniors, but the school wants to give you a break from the hard work. Your class can start registering for events. Those who want to register can find the sports committee. The physical education teacher stood in front, speaking with a strong voice. The students immediately cheered. Chuj stood at the back alone, his brows knitted. When Tangzujia turned around to chat with a female classmate, she inadvertently noticed his expression. During the month since his rebirth, although Chuj kept a low profile, the changes around him were obvious to other students. Tangzujia, sitting in the row ahead of him, occasionally interacted with him and naturally noticed as well. Tangzujia was merely curious and didn't care too much. So she glanced at Chuj and then looked away. After the warm-up activities, the students started to line up for the 100-meter dash. 4 per group. Chuj stood next to his desk mate Chen Xunji, still frowning, his thoughts adrift. That unease was intensifying, as if the breath of death was approaching. Does it have to be this way? Chuj cursed inwardly, already anxious about the survival task, and now this was how it tormented him before starting. He considered whether he should take a day off. But taking a day off during senior year would definitely result in a call to his parents. How could he explain it to them? While he was caught up in his worries, a whistle blew. He snapped back to reality and looked forward only to find that it was his group's turn to run. The other 3 had already spread their legs and sprinted off. What are you doing? The teacher glared at Chuj and bellowed. The other students burst out laughing. Coming to his senses, Chuj immediately started running forward. He didn't want to stand out, but he didn't want to embarrass himself too much, so he began to speed up. He had been nearly 20 meters behind, but now he was visibly closing the gap at a rapid pace. The laughter of the students vanished. Everyone, including the teacher, stared dumbfounded at Chuj's retreating figure. He must be cheating. Song Zio's eyes widened as she whispered. Chuj usually didn't like to interact with his classmates and had forgotten that a classmate who was a sports talent was on the same team as him. This sports talent was named Wang Hang. He wasn't particularly handsome, but not ugly either, and had a strong build. He was very popular in class, so there were some girls who secretly had crushes on him. He was arrogantly fixing his hair. His best record for the 100 meters was 12 seconds 31, and he was hopeful to become a real athlete. During class races, he always stood out as the undisputed leader. At that moment, he suddenly heard footsteps behind him. A compelling sense of being chased surged in him, a feeling he only experienced during competitions. He looked back instinctively, only to see Chuj frowning as he followed closely behind. Impossible. Wang Hang's eyes widened as he immediately sped up. Chuge sped up as well, maintaining a 3-meter distance from him, so that even if he lost, it wouldn't be too embarrassing. Damn. Is he on drugs? Chen Xunji, who sat next to Chuge, exclaimed internally. He knew Chuge well, both of their physiques were lean, and though their physical education grades weren't at the bottom, they weren't outstanding either. Chuge's 100-meter score was almost the same as his, so how did he suddenly surpass him and go after Wang Hang? Some students started to cheer and jeer, leading to more students joining in with shouts. That kid. The teacher looked at Chuge's retreating figure with complex emotions, shocked by what he had just witnessed. Chuge's starting speed and acceleration were simply too fast. He reached his top speed almost in the blink of an eye. At the start, he quickly closed the gap with the students in his group. This was definitely a gift of physical talent. The 100-meter race ended quickly. As expected, Wang Hang was the first to reach the finish line, with Chuge close behind. Chen Xunji came in third, and another slightly overweight boy took 15 seconds to reach the end. Chen Xunji was thrilled and came up to Chuge, panting, "I didn't expect you to hide your abilities so well. Tell me, what did you do over the summer vacation?" Chuge shook his head with a smile. "Nothing much, just 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups every day, plus idealism 20,000 steps." Wang Hang, with his hands on his waist, was also gasping for air, having given his all in the last half of the race. He swore he had never run that fast before. Wang Hang looked at his ordinarily low-key, unnoticeable classmate with exceedingly mixed feelings. "You're bluffing, right? How can a homebody like you walk 20,000 steps in a day? How come I didn't see you when I checked my steps for today during the summer holiday?" Chen Xunji was incredulous, eyeing Chuge and suddenly feeling that this kid seemed a bit handsomer than before. PFFT. What am I thinking? Chen Xunji was disgusted with himself and broke out in goosebumps. Survival challenge task will begin shortly. 30-second countdown. 30. 29. The cold female voice from Survival Arena rang in Chuge's ears, startling him. He hurriedly ran towards the teacher, who was walking towards the finish line with the students, too excited for words. Despite having started slowly, Chuge had managed to catch up with Wang Hang, a definite upset. Tang Xujia looked at Chuge with curiosity in her heart. Since when had this guy become so impressive? "Teacher, my stomach doesn't feel well, I need to take a leave." Chuge rushed to the teacher and spoke urgently, then immediately ran toward the school building. The countdown continued incessantly in his ear, and he had no desire to disappear into thin air in front of so many people. And so, he sprinted at full speed, and under the dumbstruck gazes of all the students, he reached the stairs next to the podium in less than 5 seconds, leaped up in a few steps, and then quickly rushed into the school building. So fast. Wang Hang stood frozen in place, stupefied. Chapter 12, Factions Compete. Becoming an undercover agent, Chuge ran into the restroom on the first floor of the teaching building. It was class time, so there was no one inside. He had just run in and had not even caught his breath when he vanished into thin air. Chuge felt the world spin again, a dizzying sensation. A few seconds later, he sensed that he had landed on the grass, his body numb, eyes unable to open. This survival challenge task is faction survival competition. There are 24 survivors participating in this faction survival competition, divided into 2 factions, each with 12 survivors, including 3 undercover agents in each faction. The setting for the faction survival competition is a park, with a duration of 24 hours. Leaving the park area constitutes failure. Killing an opposing faction survivor will earn you 100 survival points, but mistakenly killing one of your own undercover agents will result in a deduction of 200 survival points. The faction survival competition officially starts now. The emotionless female voice kept echoing in Chuge's ears, leaving him dumbfounded. Faction competition. And undercover agents? A special reminder, you are one of the 3 undercover agents. You will land together with the opposing faction. Upon hearing this, Chuge almost exploded with fury. I'm just a rookie. Does it have to be this thrilling? At that moment, he felt his control over his body beginning to return, and he instinctively opened his eyelids. A green snake head came into view. Chuge shivered all over and instinctively retreated. Following that, he felt he had bumped into something furry, and turning his head, he saw a giant panda. More precisely, it was a giant panda cub, black and white in color, fluffy and seemingly harmless. He immediately calmed down. They're all survivors. As long as they don't figure out his identity, they absolutely wouldn't dare make a move on him. Ah! A lion. The opposite green snake let out a shriek, shrinking back as well. This green snake must be a green snake, with a yellow-orange belly and some black spots on its back, the body less than 30 centimeters long. Chuge had seen the green snake before on Animal World, so he remembered it. He had indeed done a lot of homework this month. A lion. Our faction has a lion, that's awesome. Could he be an undercover agent? It's possible, but thankfully it's a juvenile lion. You're just a little kitten. Sounds rose and fell all around him, and Chuge scanned the group, confirming indeed there were 12 survivors, including himself. His size was above average. Besides the green snake and Zhao Panda, there were also 2 mice, Zhao white sheep, a crab, a white dove, a brown-haired teddy, a wild little rabbit, a small orange cat, and a vulture. A bunch of lower beings. Chuge became the center of attention. All the survivors except for the vulture retreated, maintaining a distance from him. The vulture stood on the grass, nearly 30 centimeters tall, looking to be in its adolescence, those claws so sharp and fierce. It was eyeing Chuge with a piercing gaze. Definitely not a newcomer. Chuge immediately made a judgment and hummed, "Me, an undercover agent? I am an African male lion, do I need to be undercover? My appearance is to boost your strength. An undercover agent is definitely an inconspicuous creature that can only rely on sneak attacks." His tone was full of pride, as he purposefully made others lower their guard against him. Upon hearing this, the survivors thought it made sense. Even if Chuge were a young lion, he would still be a formidable presence to them. Besides the vulture and Zhao Panda, none of the other survivors would be a match for him. As for Green Snake, it was non-venomous. Of course, not all survivors were aware that Green Snake was non-venomous. So what you're saying is that the crab is definitely the undercover, right? A sweet female voice echoed, causing Chuge and the other survivors to shudder and instinctively turn to look. Teddy. Just by the sound of her voice, one would think she was a beautiful young girl. How could her survival entity be Teddy? Even Chuge was at a loss for words. The crab was likely a Chinese mitten crab, also known as a river crab or Chinese mitten crab. It spread its pincers, cursing and swearing. "Who do you think you're looking down on, you Ritian? Ritian? You?" Brown-haired Teddy trembled with fury, but she didn't dare to charge at the river crab. As a human, she was afraid of crabs, let alone now that she was just a small teddy. "Enough, stop quarreling. Now is not the time to find the undercover. We are all strangers at the start, and to avoid friendly fire, we should first unite. Let's check out our surroundings, it's broad daylight." The vulture spoke up in a hoarse voice, clearly that of a middle-aged man. The survivors followed suit and looked around. They were surrounded by green bushes that shielded them from the eyes of passers-by in the park. As for their previous quarrel, to the outside world, it was no more than barking dogs and chirping birds. It was a weekday and there weren't many people in the park. The sound of square dancing music drifted from a distance. This survival competition is all about teamwork. I've gone through it once before. It's tough to fight alone. If we collaborate and defeat the enemies one by one, then distribute the kills so everyone can take down an enemy, that is true victory for all. So before that, we need to pick a leader. The vulture went on, implying that with his superior experience, the leadership role was rightfully his. Green Snake flicked its tongue and said, "What if you're the undercover and you lead us to death?" The other survivors nodded along. They were no longer newbies to the survival trial and had witnessed death, so they couldn't fully trust any one person. The vulture lifted one of its talons, gleaming coldly in the sunlight, and snorted, "My talons have been hardened to level 2. With my experience and strength, if I were the undercover, you'd all be dead by now. That doesn't fit the pattern of the survival arena. Rookies, don't overthink. With me here, I'll lead you to victory. Do you want to end up as zoo exhibits instead? Level 2 hardening." The survivors were frightened. Chuge internally let out a sigh of relief. It seemed that level 2 survival skills were indeed powerful at the moment. He surveyed the other survivors, trying to determine if any of them were undercovers. However, they all maintained their animal appearances, and he could not read their expressions. "Let's follow him for now, after all, he has experience." A mouse spoke up, its voice faint, perfectly embodying the phrase "as timid as a mouse." The survivors had no objections since no one contested the vulture for the position of leader. The vulture surveyed all the survivors and said, "There are 3 undercovers among us. Pay close attention regularly. If you notice anyone with a hostile intent toward us, we'll assume they're the undercover. Then, we won't rush to kill but we'll break their legs and disable them first. This way, we can also avoid killing by mistake." Upon hearing this, the survivors felt a chill in their hearts. So cruel. Teddy and Zhao Panda were so scared that they quietly moved closer to Chuge. After a month of training, Chuge looked like he was 2 to 3 months old. Among those present, he was the only one who made the other survivors feel they could contend with the vulture. "Teddy, the 2 mice, kitten, your job is to go out and gather intelligence. Remember, don't go near any cats or dogs, regardless of how cute they might be. Even sparrows and butterflies should be treated with caution. Your goal is to figure out how big this park is, not to scout the enemy, the vulture began issuing tasks. Upon hearing the orders, the 4 reluctant survivors crawled out of the bushes. Chapter 13 Natural Selection. Chuj lay on the ground, conserving his physical strength. The vulture leaned in close to him and said, "Brother, are you a newbie or a veteran? To be able to become a lion, that's really something." His tone was filled with envy. The lion was a top predator, superior in both image and potential for growth. A newbie. Got lucky, woke up and I was a lion, Chuj said nonchalantly. He feigned arrogance and overconfidence to appear brave but reckless. The vulture chuckled and asked, "So, who in your opinion, might be the undercover?" "Idiot. Thinking you can look down on everything just because you're a lion? You haven't even grown up yet, damn it." Contempt filled the vulture's heart. The lion's growth cycle was not short, and with his kid's personality, he was bound to end up as a caged animal in a zoo. "Who cares who it is? We just need to keep an eye on killing the others," Chuj replied, licking his lion's paw with self-assurance. The vulture was utterly speechless, shook his head, and walked over to another corner to rest. Zhao Panda gently patted Chuj next to him and whispered, "Big bro, are you really a newbie?" "I am too. Are you looking for a little brother? I could be your hound." Hearing this, Chuj glanced at him. Zhao Panda was lying on the ground, looking adorably foolish. The little panda curled up into a ball, looking quite comical. "You're not an undercover, are you?" Chuj's palms were crossed, his chin resting on his lion's paw as he mockingly smiled. To Zhao Panda, his posture was the epitome of a big shot's demeanor. Zhao Panda hee-hee-heed, "Even if I were undercover, I'd pose no threat, but I'm not. I just want to survive. My survival skill is thickened skin." "Thickened skin?" Chuj raised an eyebrow. This guy had some interesting thoughts. Panda, going the meat shield route, could indeed work. Already tough-skinned, strengthening it further would make him less prone to injury. The vulture across from them stared at Zhao Panda with a sharp gaze but said nothing more. Green Snake and Zhao White Sheep quietly gathered behind Chuj as well. The vulture felt dangerous to them, even if not undercover, he was certainly not a good guy. In comparison, Chuj was calm and even a bit lethargic. Maybe not a good guy, but at least he wasn't as brutal as the vulture. Suddenly, the mood became eerie. Without a response from Chuj, Zhao Panda grew anxious, but the intimidating look from the vulture scared him from speaking further. The crab walked back and forth, seemingly undecided about which side to join. Zhao Wild Rabbit hid in the grass, not uttering a word. As for the white dove, it had yet to learn how to fly and was shivering uncontrollably. Chuj scanned the group, quickly coming to a conclusion. This survival camp seemed to only have the vulture as a threat, the other survivors were easy to take down. He wondered what his teammates' lineup was like. It was probably beyond his expectations. Chuj looked back and saw a dense forest, with a Ferris wheel faintly visible. It seemed this park was not small. Its size was both an advantage and a disadvantage. Good for hiding and biding time, but if you want to eliminate an enemy, that's difficult. Chuj guessed that most of the survivors in this setup were not large in size, as even a crab was included, perfect for hiding in the bushes. About an hour passed. Teddy was the first to run back. She lay on the ground, panting and said, "This park is called King My Park, it's quite big, there are all kinds of recreational facilities inside, and it's surrounded by residential areas. I bet it gets lively at night." Both Chuj and the vulture's eyes changed at that moment. Zhao Panda howled, "It's over, there will definitely be lots of people walking their dogs tonight, and if there are stray dogs around here, that would be even worse. With their current sizes, they couldn't possibly win against an adult dog, let alone those large breeds." Upon hearing this, the survivors all began to panic. Adults would be afraid when encountering a group of stray dogs, so naturally, they were even more frightened, and it could even be said they were desperate. "It looks like we can only act after midnight. Where are the companions who left with you?" Vulture pondered. The survivors had no objections and nodded in agreement. Teddy answered, "We're acting separately. I'm not sure where they are, maybe they're undercover or have already escaped." Vulture stared at her with a sharp gaze, a flicker of displeasure in his eyes. "There really are a lot of animals in this park, as well as many elderly men and women walking their dogs. It's hard to tell who the survivors are," Teddy continued with a heavy heart. "The unknown is what people fear the most." The survivors began to discuss what kind of creatures the others might be. Then, the topic shifted to the most terrifying survivor they had ever seen. "My survival trial took place in a pond, and you know what? Loaches are really scary. Snakes are the scariest, especially poisonous ones. Haven't you encountered spiders? Especially wolf spiders. Don't we have any poisonous creatures in our camp? This is not good. If it really comes down to it, should we just hang on to survive, make it through the 24 hours? Listening to the survivors' discussions, Chuj fell into deep thought. He was considering the action that would be most beneficial for himself. He had level 3 survival skills. If he chose to lay low this time, next time, the gap with his competitors from the same batch would narrow, and he might even be overtaken. That would put him in danger. He couldn't lay low. He must take risks. It's either his demise or the enemy's. Deciding this, Chuj looked at the survivors present and then toward Vulture, saying, "Let's take action after all. If we really wait until the latter half of the night, it'll be troublesome. We can act at dusk when there are many people and no stray dogs, making it convenient for us to fight. If we choose to hide this time and securely make it through, what about the next time? Only by continuously hunting and becoming stronger can we survive. This is the survival arena, it's all about survival of the fittest. We can't afford to worry too much. The law of survival for wild animals is to hunt." Hearing these words, the survivors all fell silent. Vulture looked up at Chuj with admiration and said, "That's right, only by constant hunting can we keep on surviving. So here's the plan, I'll scout from the sky, and you can start acting at dusk. Chinese mitten crab, be careful not to be eaten by dogs." River crab protested, "You can call me river crab, not Chinese mitten crab. I am not food." However, no one paid attention to him. They continued to hide, vigilant for anyone approaching. Time flew swiftly by. The patrolling mouse and Zhao Orange Cat had already returned. The sun set beyond the mountains. Dusk arrived. As the sky grew dark, Chuj slowly stood up. Using the cover of darkness, he could blend into the crowd and nobody would notice he was a lion unless they picked him up. "Let's move out. You all pair up and split into 2 teams at the end," Vulture whispered. After finishing his sentence, he took to the air with a flap of his wings, quickly disappearing over to the other side of the forest. Zhao Panda pursed his lips and said, "I think he's the most like an undercover agent, even acting alone. Maybe he's gone to report to someone." River Crab called out, "If he's an undercover agent, then what's the point for us to play? Would the survival arena be that cruel?" Zhao Panda gave him a disdainful look and retorted, "Naive." Chapter 14 The terrifying opposition camp. The evening's King Mai Park was bustling, just like most parks in Huaxia. Music intertwined within the park, flowers bloomed in profusion, and birds sang competitively. Chuj walked on the grass, next to the pedestrian path, where couples sat on benches, and many citizens were out for a walk. Zhao Panda, Zhao Wild Rabbit, Crab, Zhao White Sheep, and Teddy followed behind him, while the other survivors hid in place, afraid to move. In the evening light, they looked just like kittens and puppies. River Crab was even less noticeable, invisible unless one looked closely. "Boss, there's a big dog ahead. Be careful," Zhao Panda whispered, to which Chuj replied with annoyance, "What's there to fear from a husky?" After speaking, Chuj turned and jogged in another direction. The other survivors hurried to follow. "Humphrey, and here I thought you weren't afraid," Teddy said disdainfully. This little lion was indeed acting tough, but his embarrassment a moment ago was kind of cute. Zhao Panda sycophantically added, "The boss is wise. Some huskies are very timid, but others can be aggressive." "What would you, a little girl, know?" Teddy snapped back, "You, as a panda, are so cowardly. How dare you criticize me? If I were a panda, I wouldn't fear any dog. Pandas might seem adorable and easygoing, but they are actually quite strong, with terrifying biting force and claws as sharp as surgical blades. During cub rearing and mating season, they are particularly prone to anger, and their aggression is on par with large bears. Pa, I'm Zhao Panda, okay? Just born, haven't even gnawed on bamboo yet," Zhao Panda snorted, his tone impertinent. For some reason, whenever Chuj heard his voice, he pictured a drooling, chubby person. Now's a good chance. They pose almost no threat to me. I could kill all the survivors except for Zhao Panda. Given he's as timid as a mouse, a threat should suffice to keep him from resisting. If I spare his life, he might even help me continue the act. Chuj's eyes flickered as he pondered his hunting plan. Meanwhile, Zhao Panda suddenly sashayed over to a low bush near a concrete pit and began rolling around in it. His image instantly became disheveled, no longer resembling the cute panda. Only after covering himself in mud did he return to the group, trampling on River Crab along the way. River Crab reflexively fought back, pinching Zhao Panda and causing him to scream in pain. "I your grandpa." Zhao Panda roared, his voice carrying a hint of a whimper. Chuj was speechless. If you guys managed to survive this survival competition, it would be an outrage against natural justice. A middle-aged man jogging nearby heard the noise and came over. Chuj immediately led his companions away. "Huh? Since when did King Mai Park have sheep?" The middle-aged man looked at Zhao White Sheep, puzzled. As for the other survivors, he mistook them for cats and dogs. He shook his head, put on his headphones, and resumed running. Thinking about his date the next night, His face broke into a lecherous smile. Youth is not a time of life, it is a state of mind. Work hard, and work even harder. He softly encouraged himself and picked up the pace. Elsewhere, Chuj and the others advanced through the shrubbery, avoiding large dogs whenever they encountered them. Come on, painted dragon on the left with me, and a rainbow on your right. Sister, you be the unfeeling goose, and I'll be the poplar tree, waiting for you for 3,000 years. The mortal world is so bustling, and love so foolishly deep. I once dreamed of gallivanting the world with a sword in hand, to see how splendid it all can be. Songs from different square dances came from all directions, bombarding the ears of Chuj and his company. Zhao Wild Rabbit wailed, "This is way too noisy." Back when he was human, he found it annoying, but as an animal, it was like a sonic booming explosion. And as the night progressed, the speakers became louder, as if they were competing in volume. Quit your complaining, when you get old, you'll be one of them too, River Crab said coldly and indifferently. Chuj thought there was something wrong with its brain. Despite being weak, they loved to provoke everyone. Could it be that they were brimming with survival points, fearless, and thus invulnerable because they desired nothing? Be careful, there's a really foul-smelling gas ahead. Teddy suddenly shouted, startling Chuj and the others into stopping in their tracks. Looking forward, they saw the grass 10 meters away shaking slightly as a black and white animal crawled out. Its limbs were short, and its body was covered with black and white fur. Its tail was very large, held high like a broom. Chuj focused and recognized it. Wasn't this a skunk? What the heck is that? A survivor? Zhao Panda said nervously. The skunk was much bigger than him, almost scaring him to the point of wetting himself. The other survivors also became tense. As soon as the skunk saw them, its eyes lit up, and it charged straight at them. This scared Zhao Panda and the others terribly. All of them shivered as they retreated. Chuj didn't retreat, he bent his forelimbs, readying himself to attack. This would be a good chance to clear his name. As long as he engaged in a fierce battle with the skunk, the other survivors would no longer suspect him of being an undercover agent. Although this skunk was larger than him, he had cheetah speed, so he was not afraid. Guys, don't attack. I'm undercover, I'm on your side. The skunk suddenly stopped and yelled, its voice a bit shrill. Chuj and the other survivors froze. Undercover? Zhao Panda quickly snapped back to his senses and cursed, do you think we're stupid? Since when do undercovers jump out like that? Chuj looked at Zhao Panda in surprise. The fat guy was smart and reacted quickly. He must be cautious. His timidity might be feigned. An armored-skinned panda wasn't weak in this game. Chuj became alert inwardly, deciding to be wary of Zhao Panda from now on. Exactly, aren't you afraid there might be undercover agents from the opposing side among us? Teddy huffed, hiding behind Chuj, afraid to step forward. The skunk became anxious and said, we have a veteran on our side, he is a wild wolf who's almost an adult. Just this afternoon, he found out I was undercover and killed another one. An almost adult wolf. Chuj and the rest of the survivors were shocked. Wolves were very ferocious predators, and an almost adult wolf would easily overpower them. If Chuj and Zhao Panda were adults, they might not fear the wolf, but now, just hearing about it made them all nervous, with Zhao Panda trembling in fear. Tell us about the animals in that faction, Chuj said to the skunk, on guard for any tricks it might play. The skunk shivered and said, there are mice, spiders, pythons, pitbulls, chickens, sparrows, bats, turtles, cats, pigs, and then me and that wild wolf. Chuj and the others fell silent. River Crab flipped over on the grass and foamed at the mouth. It's over. It's really like a nightmare difficulty. Teddy shivered with despair. Chuj took this opportunity to observe them. This way, it seemed that Teddy and River Crab probably weren't undercovers. Zhao Wild Rabbit and Zhao White Sheep didn't talk much, but they were also shaking with fear at the moment. As for Zhao Panda, he was an actor and couldn't be completely trusted. Pitbull. Is that the fighting dog that doesn't feel pain? Zhao Panda swallowed hard and asked cautiously. Chapter 15 Hunting, Wolf Size Yes. Just those freakish fighting dogs, they were in cahoots with that wild wolf. Instead of taking action, they were torturing teammates to root out the undercover. Except for me, Spider, and Sparrow who escaped, the rest were beaten to a pulp by them. They said, better to have no teammates than to let the undercover succeed. Skunk cried out in anguish, his voice choked with sobs, and he even let out a fart while at it. Zhao Panda gave him a glare and said irritably, are you guys stupid? Just by looking at Pitbull and Wild Wolf, it's obvious they're the undercovers. They're deliberately using this to weaken the enemy. All the survivors' eyes lit up upon hearing this. Right. That's damn cunning. Skunk continued to cry and said, but I dared not say anything, they didn't care about other undercovers, they just crippled people. Chuj, hearing this, also felt that Wild Wolf and Pitbull were undercovers. For him, this was not good news. After all, he was an undercover too. He noticed the expressions of the other survivors. Aside from Zhao Panda, the rest seemed quite excited. It seems that this guy might really be an undercover. Chuj stared at Zhao Panda and thought that this chubby animal covered in mud seemed to have deep schemes. Zhao White Sheep spoke up, "Does this mean that the undercovers don't know each other?" The usually silent one actually had a good grasp of the key point. "Should we trust him?" Teddy whispered this question behind Chuj. Skunk's stench made her nauseous, and she disdained even to glance at him. Chuj shook his head and said, "Whether we trust him or not, we can't keep him. His stench is like a giant light bulb. With him around, won't our tracks be exposed?" Upon hearing this, all the survivors felt it made sense. Skunk panicked and tried to plead. Suddenly, Chuj said, "Run." Animals have a strong ability to sense danger, and ever since acquiring cheetah speed, Chuj's vision had greatly improved. He had already spotted a pair of green, glistening eyes in the bushes behind Skunk. Enemy. He turned and fled, and the other survivors instantly turned around and sprinted away. Zhao Panda let out a scream, as he saw a river crab clinging to his butt, hitching a free ride. Skunk wasn't as pathetic as he seemed. He let out a fart and then chased after the others. A howl came from the bushes, followed by a gray wolf charging out. It shook its head and sneezed continuously, utterly disgusted. Chuj ran out of the field and onto a square, where he crouched down among the crowd. Teddy followed close behind. "Boss. You." Zhao Panda widened his eyes, hesitated for a moment, but still approached. He now looked like a fat and dirty dog, probably unrecognizable to people. Giant pandas are naturally docile. Young giant pandas are also very cute, but when they are covered in mud, they don't look very cute under the night sky. Passers-by all steered clear, cursing at him, which made Zhao Panda feel extremely aggrieved. "Mommy, that dog has a crab on its butt," a little girl holding her mother's hand said, pointing at Zhao Panda. Zhao Panda moved quickly, rushing to a corner of the square, backing against the wall, and lay down motionless. "It's late at night, you're seeing things. How could there be a crab on a dog's butt, and the dog isn't even barking?" The young mother, who was on the phone, responded impatiently. After speaking, she turned around and covered the phone with her other hand. Chuj squatted between two elderly people and looked around in all directions. Lions have a keen sense of smell, but he hadn't gotten a whiff of the enemy. Now, he could only rely on his eyes to identify them. Teddy hurried to his side and crouched down too, anxiously scanning the surroundings. Zhao White Sheep and Zhao Wild Rabbit hid at the edge of the bushes, not daring to burst out. They weren't exactly animals commonly seen in big cities, and being taken by someone could mean direct elimination, couldn't it? Skunk dared not come out either and curled up in the bushes, motionless. "What should we do?" "After 9 o'clock, there will be fewer people in the park," Teddy asked anxiously. The pair of eyes she had seen earlier made her heart pound, and she was still unsettled. Chuj said softly, "Let's wait and see." He glanced at Teddy with a meaningful smile and asked, "Aren't you afraid that I'm an undercover?" Teddy stiffened instantly upon hearing this. "Don't scare me," she said with an awkward laugh. She subconsciously put a little distance between herself and Chuj. Chuj smiled but said nothing more. This Teddy was probably not an undercover. Should he lure her to a deserted corner and then bite her to death? Seeing that he was silent, Teddy felt uneasy in her heart. She truly didn't know whom to trust. Suddenly, she felt that the team competition wasn't as great as she had thought at the beginning. Although she had teammates, she was unable to discern who the real teammates were. "If I had known it would be like this, I should have played werewolf more often," Teddy wailed, making Chuj want to laugh. He began to stare off into space. Listening to the dance music in the square, looking towards the neon lights of a distant city, and the lights of the nearby neighborhood, Chuj fell into a daze. Once upon a time, he was just an ordinary person, wondering what to eat that day, how to laze around the next, but now, he had become a lion, blending in among the elderly, watching them dance. Life is truly a drama. Not even novels would dare to write it like this. Chuj showed a bitter smile as he thought to himself. He had always fantasized about having an extraordinary life, and wasn't this it? Everyone thinks they are extraordinary, but in the end, life grinds down their edges. Now that he had the chance to transcend ordinary life, why feel sad? He perked up, ready to take action. "Follow me." Leaving those words behind, Chuj walked towards the sidewalk, and after hesitating for a moment, Teddy followed him. Seeing this, Zhao Panda also tagged along. As soon as he saw him follow, Chuj's eyes turned cold. Soon, they walked onto a dark and desolate alley with no one around. "Why are we here? It feels so creepy," Teddy said, scared, maintaining a 2-meter distance from Chuj. She didn't dare to move further away for fear of being attacked by an enemy. Chuj turned around and stared at her with an indifferent look. Zhao Panda stayed quiet on the side, not saying a word. The atmosphere was eerie. Teddy realized what was going on, and with a trembling voice, she said, You're the undercover. She quickly turned to Zhao Panda, calling out, let's deal with him together. Zhao Panda lay on the ground, silent. The river crab behind his butt suddenly slipped away, swiftly burrowing into the bushes. Teddy was struck as if by lightning, instantly dumbfounded. This guy was also an undercover. Boss, hurry up, in case the vulture sees us. Zhao Panda urged, revealing his cards. Teddy immediately turned and ran. Chuj pounced after her with incredible speed. Zhao Panda only saw a blur before Chuj had tackled Teddy to the ground. So fast. What kind of speed is this? Zhao Panda's eyes widened. Could it be level 2 survival skills? No, that's not right. Even at level 2, it wouldn't be this fast. Chuj looked at Teddy beneath him, hesitating whether to bite down. If he killed Teddy now, she might not necessarily die, but if she didn't have any survival points, she'd be truly finished. Chapter 16, The Rise of the Panda. Please, spare me. Spare me. Teddy sobbed, begging for mercy, her voice incapable of drawing human attention. Even if there were people nearby, they wouldn't check on a dog's bark. Chuj bit down on her neck, almost out of a lion's instinct to hunt. But he didn't apply force. He had another plan in mind. He whispered, do you want to live? Teddy whimpered, yes. 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 Then shut up and listen to me. Chuj pressed her down, speaking in a low voice. Given the situation now, you can't tell who the undercover is, and you can't prove you're not one either. Better to join me. You help lure your teammates, and when it's almost over, I'll catch a teammate for you to kill. That's your best outcome. Otherwise, even if you join those wild wolves or pit bulls, do you think they will leave you any meat? They'll only waste you. Chuj threatened in a low voice, and Zhao Panda, overhearing this, couldn't help but show an admiring look. What a plan. Although Chuj had cheetah speed, he knew he was no match for the wild wolf and the pit bull. To defeat them, he had to come up with a countermeasure. Teddy was weak but could serve as bait. How do I know you won't go back on your word? Teddy asked nervously, her voice still choked up. Zhao Panda rolled his eyes and said, do you even have a choice? Either die or stick with us. Didn't you hear what Skunk said? Once wild wolf and pit bull regroup, even if you don't die, you'll be left crippled from their bites. Imagine being bitten and maimed by wolves and pit bulls, a fate worse than death. At these words, Teddy shuddered and immediately caved in. Chuj released her and said, remember, in the survival arena, no matter what the competition task is, the only thing you can rely on is yourself. Everyone lives for themselves. Right now, you're of use to me, which is your leverage. Teddy hung her head in a submissive manner. Afterward, Chuj led them into the bushes to hide. If you perform well this time, you can join my survival team in the future. Understand, survival team, it means we can compete in the survival competition together, significantly increasing our chances to survive, whispered Chuj, lying prone on the ground. Teddy looked up at him, her eyes filled with curiosity. Zhao Panda got excited, trying to contain his enthusiasm as he asked, boss, do you already have a survival team? How many members? Chuj glanced at him with a meaningful look and said, you know quite a lot, always love to act, eh? Thought you were really timid and cowardly. If this guy truly sided with him, he could indeed become a great asset. Great acting skills could deliver a surprise blow to the enemy. I met a veteran in the survival trial who told me about it. Boss, take me under your wing in the future. I'll go through fire and water for you, Zhao Panda chuckled. The reason he was bootlicking Chuj was because of Chuj's survival entity. Lion. His growth potential in the latter stages was definitely beyond their reach. The same survival skills applied to a male lion and a canine would yield different results. The battle capabilities of a giant panda were strong too, but Zhao Panda was unsure if he could defeat a male lion once he reached adulthood. He always felt he couldn't. Chuj neither confirmed nor denied. He turned to Teddy and said, let me be clear with you. Your next task will be to serve as bait, drawing out the wild wolf and the pit bull, which means you're very likely to get hurt. But in the survival arena, how can you expect to never get injured? If you're smart, you'll understand that sticking with your teammates, at best, you'll get through safely. But if you're with me, you'll have the chance to kill the enemy. Survival arenas tasks are bound to get harder each time. Only by killing the enemy can you grow stronger and continue to survive, he said impassively, making Teddy lower her head again. Zhao Panda grinned and said, when the time comes, I can rush to the front too. I bet they won't kill me outright. Once he revealed his true nature, he stopped acting timid, now exuding a certain ruthlessness. Teddy looked up and gritted her teeth, can you guarantee they won't maul me to death? After the end of the survival trial, She had been setting her mindset for a month. But it was not until that moment that she truly made up her mind. I can only say I'll do my best. I don't want to give you too much hope. I want you to be prepared for the worst. Only then can you have a better chance to survive, Chuge said earnestly. Again, Teddy fell silent. Zhao Panda said with a smile, little sister, crying here is useless. If you cry to Vulture, guess what he would do? He would disable you and make you unable to cry. Teddy's head hung even lower, with no response. Time continued to pass. The peak hours of the park at night passed, and people began to go home one after another. Chuge and his two companions lay in ambush on this small path, waiting for their enemies to appear. You, climb the tree. Chuge suddenly instructed Zhao Panda. Zhao Panda was taken aback for a moment but soon understood Chuge's intention. Giant pandas can climb trees, but it was uncertain if the young panda could do the same. Soon, Zhao Panda gave Chuge a surprise. He could climb trees, and he wasn't slow at it either. It seems this guy has been practicing various survival skills regularly, Chuge mused with a sense of appreciation in his heart. Indeed, one should never underestimate any survivor. Teddy was also surprised. She had always looked down on Zhao Panda, but he was quite impressive. Zhao Panda climbed up the trunk to their overhead position and remained still. Covered in mud, his scent was masked, making it difficult for enemies to detect him. He stayed motionless, and both Chuge and Teddy stopped talking as well. Around 10 o'clock, a figure came walking around the corner of the path. Grey Wolf. With its tail tucked, it walked while sniffing the ground. At the sight of him, the hearts of Chuge and his companions clenched. This fellow looked like he was nearly grown, appearing in the moonlight like the Grim Reaper approaching them. Chuge gently nudged Teddy, signaling her to jump out. Teddy shivered all over, and despite being very afraid, she still jumped out shakily. The Grey Wolf became instantly alert, staring at Teddy, and said, "Where's the little lion?" Chuge lay on a patch of grass that was higher than the adjacent stone path, allowing him to remain perfectly hidden from Grey Wolf's sight behind the foliage. "He is too fast, I couldn't keep up with him," Teddy said nervously. Hearing this, Grey Wolf couldn't help but recall Chuge's speed, which indeed was alarmingly fast. He immediately walked toward Teddy. Teddy trembled, caution in her voice, "Are you really an undercover agent for our side?" The Grey Wolf grinned, showing a cruel smile. "What do you think?" Whoosh! He suddenly leaped up, pouncing towards Teddy. Teddy, with her girlish mentality and being a newcomer to the survival arena, couldn't dodge in time and was directly knocked to the ground. The Grey Wolf opened its mouth, ready to bite down on her throat. Just then, the leaves rustled, and a chubby figure resembling a stone dropped down. With a thud, the Grey Wolf's head was struck obliquely, and with a howl, it rolled over to the grass beside them. Teddy also felt the impact, nearly losing consciousness. After landing, Zhao Panda rolled several times, quickly got up, and charged straight at the Grey Wolf. "Grey Big Bad Wolf, prepare to die." He howled with excitement, like a cannonball charging forward, colliding head-on with the Grey Wolf and knocking it to the ground once again. Chapter 17, Three Heroes Battle. LVP knocked to the ground by Zhao Panda once again, Grey Wolf was utterly furious. He quickly leapt up, dodging another charge from Zhao Panda. Baring his teeth, he roared, "You meatball! Just wait until I tear you to shreds." After that, he bent his limbs, leaped into the air, and directly pinned Zhao Panda to the ground. Zhao Panda's size was no match for him, and naturally, neither was his strength. Grey Wolf began to frantically bite into Zhao Panda, as if he had gone mad. However, Zhao Panda's skin was tough and his flesh thick. In a short time, Grey Wolf was unable to bite through Zhao Panda's throat, especially since Zhao Panda was also struggling. "You damn well try to bite me to death." Zhao Panda resisted, shouting, his tone a mix of pain and excitement. Cold light burst forth from Grey Wolf's eyes as he exerted all his strength to suppress Zhao Panda. At that moment, a figure burst out of the bushes, moving as swiftly as a crafty rabbit, with the force of thunder. Grey Wolf did not notice the commotion behind him, and Chuge pounced on top of him, his sharp lion claws piercing into his flesh. Chuge then tried to bite at his neck. Unfortunately, Chuge was a young lion, not so long in the body, and could not reach Grey Wolf's neck. Grey Wolf howled and rolled to the side, attempting to shake Chuge off. Chuge, who trained his reflexes every day in the primary training hall, promptly jumped away, leaving Grey Wolf to press down on nothing. He landed next to Zhao Panda and whispered, "Are you okay?" Zhao Panda's bravery refreshed Chuge's view of him. This guy was more reliable than he seemed. "Of course there's no problem, this Grey Wolf doesn't seem as powerful as I imagined. The survival skill he must have exchanged for is a growth accelerator," said Zhao Panda as he shakily stood up, chuckling with his plump body. His analysis caused Chuge to narrow his eyes. No wonder. Chuj had been wondering why they encountered an enemy whose growth far outstripped theirs in this mission. It seemed that this grey wolf had only participated in one or two more survival competitions than they had, using the survival points to exchange for the growth accelerator. As the name suggests, the growth accelerator speeds up the growth process, with different levels available. The higher the level, the faster the growth, and the more survival points it consumes. Even the cheapest growth accelerator costs 1,500 survival points. Grey Wolf slowly got up, his eyes filled with murderous intent as he glared at Chuj and Zhao Panda, his voice chilling. So you've guessed it all. You're quite clever, but aside from the growth accelerator, I also exchanged for another survival skill. Physical enhancement. If you can't kill me quickly, just wait for me to tear you to shreds. Grey Wolf laughed hideously, a laugh that deeply affected Chuj and Zhao Panda. Physical enhancement. Without a word, Chuj charged at Grey Wolf. Seeing this, Zhao Panda rushed in as well. Watching the two charge at him, Grey Wolf smiled cruelly and jumped straight at Chuj, who was in the lead. Just as he was about to be struck, Chuj deftly leaped to the side, making Grey Wolf miss his target. Zhao Panda followed by ramming into Grey Wolf with such force that it blackened his vision. After toughening his skin, Zhao Panda's ramming was like a rock. After all, pandas are made of flesh all over, not lighter than an adult wolf. Chuj pounced at Grey Wolf again, joining Zhao Panda in the assault. One was extraordinarily swift and agile, the other was tough-skinned and relentlessly combative, which made fighting Grey Wolf incredibly frustrating for him. On the stone stairway, Duddy watched Chuj and the panda challenge the fierce beast larger than themselves, her heart shaken. Her emotions were complex, a surge of passionate ardor filling her chest. She faced Grey Wolf stiffly, without even the opportunity to react. Now, looking at Chuj and Zhao Panda. At this moment, she suddenly grasped the survival of the fittest in the animal kingdom. Survival of the fittest, only the strong survive. She bit her lip and walked toward where Chuj and the others were. She walked onto the grass and started barking at the Grey Wolf. Woof woof woof, woof. Woof woof. She kept barking, and Chuj, Zhao Panda, and the Grey Wolf found it unbearably noisy. Can you fucking stop? Just as Zhao Panda began to curse in rage after being knocked over by the Grey Wolf, he cut himself off. Could it be? He looked at Teddy with surprise. Chuj also noticed something was amiss. Although they were annoyed by the noise, the Grey Wolf was even more agitated, acting like a rabid dog wildly lunging and shaking its head non-stop. Level 2 Throat of Noise. It can cause noise disturbance to the target it wants to attack, with a chance to make the opponent unable to control their emotions. She has level 2 survival skills. Even though Throat of Noise is one of the cheapest level 2 survival skills, it still costs 450 survival points. How did she get them? Could it be that she also cleared the level without taking any damage? Chuj's thoughts were in disarray, but he understood that now was not the time to ponder these things. He started to launch attacks around the Grey Wolf while Zhao Panda occasionally barged in, undeterred by the cuts bleeding on his body. The Grey Wolf began to fall behind. Meanwhile, a vulture perched on a tree tens of meters away. He watched the fight between Chuj's trio and the Grey Wolf, his eyes dark and silent. He was astonished. He wasn't too surprised by Chuj's performance. But he had not expected Zhao Panda to be so formidable, nor had he anticipated that Teddy would also have a level 2 survival skill. No wonder their camp looked so weak. They are all actors, the vulture muttered to himself, suddenly feeling relieved that he hadn't disabled his teammates right from the start, or he might have ended up like the Grey Wolf. On the other side, Zhao White Sheep and Zhao Wild Rabbit were also watching the battle from the bushes, in shock. Previously, hearing about the brutality of the Grey Wolf had turned it into a nightmare for them, seemingly unbeatable. Yet, Chuj's trio managed to fight the Grey Wolf to a standstill. Should we go help them? Zhao Wild Rabbit asked cautiously. Zhao White Sheep rolled her eyes and said, "Can't you see? They are the enemy. Don't forget, the Grey Wolf is an undercover agent, on our side." Zhao Wild Rabbit's eyes widened, utterly baffled. Inside the security room of King Mai Park, an old grandpa was reclining in a chair, watching TV with his legs propped up on the table. On the wall beside him hung several monitors displaying surveillance videos from various parts of the park. He was only responsible for one area, with other security rooms monitoring nearby zones. He glanced at a surveillance screen and then went back to his show. Wait a minute. He suddenly paused, shifting his gaze back to a monitor. In the footage, a kitten and a chubby little dog were fighting a big dog, with a little teddy nearby barking. These stray cats and dogs can't stay out of trouble. Is this a three heroes fighting LVBoo situation? The grandpa chuckled, then poured himself some tea to continue spectating. At night, King Mai Park gathered many stray cats and dogs. He had seen many fights, but this was the first time witnessing cats and dogs teaming up to fight another big dog. He muttered to himself, Better for them to fight it out to the death, so they stop biting people everywhere. Last month, his granddaughter had been bitten by a stray dog, which made him quite resentful of these stray animals. Chapter 18 Killing the enemy no good, his physical strength is too formidable. Zhao Panda was flipped onto the ground and shouted angrily. Chuj followed by jumping away, creating distance from Grey Wolf. Although he was fast, his body was still marked with several bloody scratches that made him gasp in pain. He gritted his teeth and said to the furious Grey Wolf, "It seems we will have difficulty determining a victor. Why don't we stop the fight here? Even if you kill us in the end, exhausted as you will be, you'll become prey for other survivors." Upon hearing this, Grey Wolf struggled to calm down. What Chuj said was true. Physical enhancement does not equate to infinite stamina. He had already spent more than half of his physical strength, and continuing the fight was not to his advantage. But he was filled with hatred. He couldn't believe that he was being pushed to such an embarrassing state by three small creatures. Especially that little Zhao Panda, who kept provoking him and making his anger unbearable. "You think I'm afraid?" Grey Wolf barked back stubbornly, maintaining a fierce expression. Chuj snorted, "The task is far from over. If you really want to fight, then let's continue. Even if it means death, we will fight to the death." Yet he had no bottom in his heart. Losing face was not an option, though he may be afraid inside. His words betrayed no fear. In his past life and now, this was the first time he had experienced such a brutal fight. Perhaps it was the wildness in the bones of a lion that made him feel the pain, but more so the boiling of his blood. The Grey Wolf was intimidated by his resolve, leading to hesitation. Teddy then shut up, allowing Grey Wolf's rationality to start returning. In the end, Grey Wolf snorted coldly, "You wait and see, this isn't over." After saying that, he turned and ran away swiftly. Chuj and Zhao Panda let out a sigh of relief. "Let's leave this area first," Chuj commanded, feeling that in the surrounding darkness, someone was spying on them. It was best to leave as soon as possible. He immediately turned to run, with Zhao Panda and Teddy closely following. They quickly ran into the bushes, moving forward along the trees. Along the way, Chuj remained vigilant, aware that the most threatening creature now was the pit bull. Zhao Panda was excited, chatting with Teddy at the back. "Not bad, Ritian, you actually have level 2 survival skills. How did you manage that?" "Get lost, you're Ritian. You get an extra 1,000 survival points if you pass the survival trial without any injury." "Bullshit, you can do it without any injury? Did you just cling onto someone's leg to save yourself?" "PFFT, I was like a little kitten in the survival trial. I acted cute with a girl, and she took me in. At night, I even slept in her arms. Who would dare to hurt me?" Teddy regained her liveliness, laughing somewhat smugly. Chuj was speechless. Should this be attributed to luck, or was it actually a skill? Suddenly, he realized passing the trial without any injury was difficult, but surely not a rare occurrence. He asked curiously, "You have 1,000 survival points. Why didn't you exchange them for level 3 survival skills?" Teddy answered awkwardly, "I chose a beautification survival skill, which led to having only enough points to buy a level 2 skill. I don't dare to fight directly, so I chose Throat of Noise." Chuj and Zhao Panda's foreheads were marked with black lines. Zhao Panda almost spat blood, resentfully exclaiming, "Heavens are unjust." Teddy felt more embarrassed. Thankfully her face was covered in fur, hiding her blushing. 10 minutes later, they arrived at the top of a slide in the park, where there was a small space. Adults would have to bend to enter, but for them, it was quite spacious. There were only 2 ways down, one side had the slide, the other had stairs. The position was easy to defend but hard to attack. Anyone who dared to rush up would face their assault. They lay low without showing their heads. After the fierce battle, their relationship had significantly improved. They lay in ambush while communicating in whispers. Little did they know, a bat was hanging upside down from a nearby tree, silently watching them. The leaves concealed its form, preventing Chuj and his companions from noticing its presence. It had arrived earlier than Chuj and his 2 companions, quietly observing the situation. "Boss, are we going to stay in ambush the whole time?" Zhao Panda asked in a subdued voice. Chuj replied, "First, we restore our physical strength. The 3 of us together should not be afraid, we can go hunting. As long as Grey Wolf and Pitbull don't join forces, we should be able to sweep this survival challenge task." Zhao Panda nodded. Teddy didn't speak, her heart started to flutter once again. The thought of having to bite other survivors to death sent a cold shiver down her spine. Chuj, on the other hand, was thinking about those survivors whom Grey Wolf had eliminated. Those guys were his teammates, and if he could find them, they might come in handy. Time continued to pass. Night fell. King Mai Park became desolate, with the sounds of frogs and cicadas intertwining under the night sky, occasionally punctuated by the howls of stray dogs. "You guys wait here, I'll go for a walk." I'm fast, so I can escape danger, but you can't. Chuj left this message and slid down the slide. Zhao Panda was taken aback, about to speak when Chuj quickly dashed into the woods, faster than Zhao Panda could fathom. Is this the speed of a lion? More like a cheetah, he exclaimed. Teddy nodded in agreement. Elsewhere, Chuj wandered aimlessly through the park, slowing his pace to conserve energy. Soon, he saw 4 stray dogs lying on the ground resting, varying in size, with the largest one looking even more majestic than Grey Wolf. The stray dogs lifted their heads and opened their eyes as they picked up his scent. Chuj was unperturbed and kept moving forward. It turns out stray dogs are so terrifying at night. He marveled inwardly. The sight of the 4 dogs, looking like wolves, sent chills down his back. As he walked past the 4 dogs, they suddenly got up and pounced towards him. Chuj sprinted away, and his cheetah speed helped him quickly put distance between them. After a few steps, the 4 stray dogs abandoned the chase. Chuj meandered until he arrived at the usual hiding place of Green Snake, Zhao Panda, and the others. By the time he found it, Green Snake and the others were no longer there. Could they have been moved by the vulture? Chuj furrowed his brow. He had hoped to hunt there but was met with emptiness instead. Whoosh, whoosh, at that moment, the sound of flapping wings approached, and a white dove landed in front of Chuj. It excitedly said, "You're finally back, the others have scattered after an assault by Pitbull." Chuj looked at White Dove and feigned curiosity as he asked, "Is there an undercover causing trouble in our camp?" White Dove shook its head and said, "I don't know, I've been hiding in the trees, afraid to fly around." Growl. Chuj swiftly pinned it to the ground and bit its head, twisting hard. Ding. You have successfully hunted an enemy, gaining 100 survival points. Chuj released his bite and let out a sigh of relief. He hadn't killed the wrong one. If he had killed an undercover from his side, he would have lost 200 survival points. Looking at the corpse of White Dove, he sighed, then started digging a hole, planning to bury it. You are indeed an undercover. A cold and hoarse voice came through. Chuj looked up, and saw a small orange cat slowly emerging from the underbrush. In the darkness of the night, its cat eyes shone coldly. Chapter 19 Undercover Competition. This little orange cat. Chuj's eyes flickered, focusing on the little orange cat, his heart stirring. Aside from him in their camp, there were Green Snake, Zhao Panda, 2 mice, Zhao White Sheep, Crab, White Dove, Brown-haired Teddy, Wild Little Rabbit, Little Orange Cat, and Vulture. In his eyes, only Vulture posed a threat, while Zhao Panda had already sided with him. The other survivors were rabble, easily defeated. But now, the little orange cat gave him a sense of mystery and depth. When they first met, the little orange cat was low-key, even seeming timid and cowardly, too scared to talk much in front of teammates. Looking at the little orange cat now, it was as if it had changed into a different cat. Do you believe me if I say I'm not an undercover? Asked Chuj with a smile that was not quite a smile, ready to attack at any moment. The little orange cat stopped, squatted on the ground, licking its paws while chuckling. Don't be nervous, I'm also an undercover. I've been observing. Aside from you, Vulture is also an undercover. On the other side, the known undercovers include Pitbull and Grey Wolf, which reveals a pattern, that the main forces of both sides are undercovers. Chuj frowned, becoming even more cautious. He already knew that Zhao Panda was an undercover, and now the little orange cat was claiming both itself and Vulture to be undercovers as well. 4 undercovers in total, someone was definitely lying. He trusted his instincts. Previously Zhao Panda had genuinely fought for him, and didn't seem deceitful. The little orange cat had appeared to disrupt his judgment, which was worth scrutinizing. Oh? Is that so? Have you already contacted Vulture? Chuj asked with a smile, concealing his own attitude while trying to probe the cat's response. Indeed, he has already sought me out, came the voice of Vulture, and Chuj turned to see Vulture swooping down from the sky to perch on a tree trunk, looking coldly at him. The little orange cat chuckled, my survival skills are also level 2. Of the venom type, 1 bite and you'll be instantly paralyzed. After saying that, it showed its small sharp fangs. Under the moonlight, they gleamed coldly. We must unite. Pitbull has killed most of the members in the opposite camp, with only Spider, Bat, Skunk, and Grey Wolf remaining, Vulture said to Chuj and the little orange cat, his indifferent gaze making it impossible to tell if he was lying. Upon hearing this, Chuj frowned. This meant their camp was at a disadvantage. Grey Wolf and Pitbull were not to be trifled with. Especially Pitbull, who, from what Vulture implied, seemed even more ferocious than Grey Wolf. Over here, you killed Green Snake and the 2 mice, didn't you? The little orange cat asked Vulture, its smile chilling. Vulture neither confirmed nor denied, just watching them, waiting for their opinions. Chuj was observing them the whole time, trying to detect who was lying. The little orange cat shook its head, I know where Pitbull is. Let's join forces and take him down first. Chuj asked with a smile, you know. The little orange cat nodded. He is hiding behind a small shop, recently attacked by a pack of stray dogs. He's seriously injured, recovering. No sooner had the words left its mouth than Chuj suddenly pounced on the cat. The distance between them was less than 3 meters. With one leap, Chuj had the cat pinned to the ground. The little orange cat was slightly smaller than him, and had no chance to resist his strength. He bit into the little orange cat's neck as it cried out in alarm, "Wait! You're going to kill your teammate. Are you a pig?" Vulture stood on the tree, passively watching, silent. Chuj maintained his biting hold on the neck, preventing the little orange cat from biting back. He gave the cat a cold sidelong glance, looking for a final confirmation. Panic began to set in for the little orange cat as it spoke in exasperation, "Can't you be rational? If I weren't an undercover, would I foolishly confront you and blow my own cover?" Crack. Chuj bit through his neck, instantly cutting off his life force. Ding. You have successfully hunted an enemy and obtained 100 survival points. Since this survivor has already hunted 3 enemies in this survival competition task, you will receive half of his survival points reward. Congratulations on obtaining 150 survival points. A cold female voice rang out in Chuj's mind, filling his heart with joy. He hadn't killed the wrong person. Moreover, he had even received half of the other's survival reward. This was pushing survivors to take risks and challenge the strong. This little orange cat managed to kill 3 survivors? Incredible. He immediately released his mouth and turned to look at the vulture. Indeed, you were pretending before. You're very smart. How did you know he was acting? Vulture asked, looking down at Chuj. Chuj calmly said, a dog's sense of smell is not that simple. He could see the pitbull, and the pitbull would definitely notice him too. In such a situation, if the pitbull doesn't move, there's obviously a trick, and besides, I already know who the other undercover is. Vulture didn't make a move, which made him even more certain that this guy was also an undercover. I know that Zhao Panda is an undercover, but when I saw the pitbull gather the orange cat, Zhao white sheep, wild little rabbit, green snake, and 2 mice together, I thought I'd use his plan against him. I didn't expect you to be smarter than I imagined, seeing through his plan instantly. I didn't intervene just now, letting you successfully obtain survival points. Now you should trust me, right? Vulture said seriously, staring at Chuj. Chuj nodded. If the little orange cat wasn't an undercover, then only the 3 of them could be. Suddenly Vulture sighed and said, apart from being strong, Pitbull has another survival skill, which is also why I wanted to work with you. With his experience and ability, he should be working alone, trying to obtain as many survival points as possible for himself, but now, he wasn't feeling confident. What survival skill? Chuj asked. Just then, a cacophony of barking erupted from across the park. He can command stray dogs, Vulture replied. What? Chuj's eyes widened, unable to maintain his composure. How the hell was he supposed to play this game? How many stray dogs were there in King Mai Park? Just the thought of it made his scalp tingle. I can fly and safely get through this survival task, but I'm not satisfied. What do you think we should do next? Vulture asked. Chuj frowned, deep in thought. Wait a minute. If the pitbull was so powerful, how could the Grey Wolf compete with him? The Grey Wolf clearly had pride and would definitely want to earn more survival points. A plan suddenly formed in Chuj's mind. He asked, do you know where Grey Wolf is hiding? Vulture immediately understood his idea and laughed, I'll go find him. You'd better look out for yourself, the pitbull is coming. With that, he spread his wings and flew away. Chuj was moved, he had already smelled a pack of stray dogs. He turned and fled at once. But he had barely broken out of the woods when he stopped in his tracks. Ahead was a plaza, where stray dogs of various sizes were sitting in a fan formation on the ground, tongues out, looking at him. There were 17 stray dogs in total, their eyes revealing a hungry look. More stray dogs emerged from the adjacent woods. He was trapped. Chapter 20 Show Pitbull. The night sky glittered with stars, a rarity in the city. But beneath this beautiful vista, a deadly aura pervaded King Mai Park. In the square, hungry stray dogs stared at Chuj, their drool continuously hitting the ground, adding a thrill of horror to the atmosphere. Chuj slowly stepped forward. He didn't turn to flee because there was a scent coming from the woods behind him that made him feel an extreme sense of danger drawing near. Rustle, 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 the underbrush shook, and a figure emerged slowly. It was a squat, muscular dog with short brown fur and well-developed limbs, especially the front, which were wide apart. Its head was nearly round, its skull massive, panting lightly, with rows of teeth intermingled with bits of meat. Pitbull. It was shorter than most of the stray dogs, but it had a robust build, a whole size larger than Chuj. Its gaze was calm, eerily so, enough to send chills down Chuj's spine. Just by making eye contact, Chuj realized he was no match for the dog. Lion? You're really lucky. If you don't resist and let me bite you to death nicely, I'll consider adding you as a friend after the mission ends, and invite you to join my survival team," the pitbull spoke, its voice magnetic and calm, reminding Chuj of a corporate executive in his 30s. Chuj nearly laughed when he heard what the dog said. This was their recruitment attitude? Even if he joined the pitbull's survival team, he would probably be at the bottom of the pecking order. The stray dogs around Chuj all stood up, growling low at him, ready to pounce at any moment. "Hey!" Just then, a shout echoed through the air, and Chuj, the pitbull, and the stray dogs all turned to look. A security guard, flashlight in hand, approached from the road. He was incensed to see so many stray dogs ganging up on Chuj. "Get out of here. You bad guys. Go away," he yelled angrily, waving his flashlight violently. The pitbull frowned and barked at him. The other stray dogs joined in. "Woof woof woof, woof. Woof woof. What's it like to be barked at by nearly 20 stray dogs in the middle of the night?" The security guard shuddered all over and turned to flee. Chuj was speechless. The crisis did not end with human intervention. The pitbull looked back at Chuj and said, "Have you made up your mind? Not everyone gets so much patience from me." Chuj scanned the stray dogs around him, looking for a gap to make his escape. The fleeing security guard stopped, hid behind a tree, took out his phone, and began filming the confrontation in the square. His right hand trembled slightly as he muttered to himself, "Old Jong was right, these stray dogs should be put down." The pitbull kept a close eye on Chuj and began to step closer. Chuj asked, puzzled, "How can you lead these stray dogs? What kind of survival skill is this?" There were too many survival skills in the survival arena for him to remember them all. The pitbull's mouth curved into a slight smile as it replied, "Just a survival skill that lets me communicate with dogs. I can understand the feelings of these strays, so it's quite easy to lead them. They are just homeless kids. They want something simple, not to starve. The real culprits that brought them to this state are humans, who love to keep dogs and yet love to abandon them. Now that we humans have turned into animals fighting each other, tell me, could this be God's punishment?" Unmoved, Chuj replied calmly, "Whether it's punishment, I don't know, but the idea that I'll surrender without a fight, that's impossible." With those words, he turned and ran. He burst forth with all his might, reaching a small stray dog in 2 strides, and leaped over it, clearing the dog's head in 1 bound. Upon landing, he sprinted ahead. The stray dog was stunned, failing to comprehend what had just happened. A bunch of good-for-nothings. Pitbull cursed angrily, then barked twice, and all the stray dogs chased after Chuj. Chuj sprinted down the sidewalk, and as he saw the stray dogs getting farther away, he slowed his pace. He laughed loudly, "Pitbull, with so many lackeys, why can't you catch me?" Upon hearing this, Pitbull's eyes sharpened. He began to chase Chuj with all his might. Unfortunately, the stray dogs stopped after running a short while, too hungry to sustain a lengthy chase. Pitbull stopped as well. However, Chuj suddenly turned around and ran back, coming within 5 meters of them and provocatively wiggling his butt at them. Even the usually composed Pitbull was almost driven to explode with rage. A prey weaker than him dared to provoke them like this. He leaped forward fiercely, trying to pounce on Chuj, but Chuj's reflexes were faster. With a push of his legs, he widened the gap between them in the blink of an eye. "Show off." The security guard hiding behind a big tree exclaimed in amazement as he saw this. He had thought this little dog would be bitten to death, but to his surprise, not only had it not been killed, but it also dared to come back and provoke the pack. In this manner, Chuj repeatedly teased Pitbull until he was fuming with rage. In the end, Chuj quickly shook off Pitbull and the pack and disappeared into the night of King Mai Park without a trace. "Damn it. I will kill you." Pitbull gritted his teeth and said, lying on the ground to rest. On the other side, after circling the park several times and making sure Pitbull was not following, Chuj returned to the slide where Zhao Panda and Teddy were. "Boss, you're finally back!" Zhao Panda exclaimed excitedly. After climbing up, Chuj gasped for air and said softly, "Keep it down." Seeing him so exhausted, Zhao Panda quickly shut his mouth. Teddy looked around nervously, fearing enemies might have followed them. After resting for a while, Chuj recounted the events that had occurred, leaving both survivors wide-eyed and speechless. "This isn't a survival arena, it's an arena of drama queens," Teddy said softly in awe. If it had been her in Chuj's place, she probably would have believed the words of the little orange cat and been lured to the jaws of Pitbull. Zhao Panda shivered and said, "Pitbull has so many stray dogs under his command, we can't possibly beat him. We'd better not trouble him. He didn't have Chuj's speed, facing Pitbull would be certain death for him." They didn't notice that a dark shadow streaked across the sky above the trees not far away. Chuj nodded and said, "If we could get Grey Wolf to join us, maybe we'd stand a fighting chance." Zhao Panda's eyes widened, and he thought to himself, "Madman, Grey Wolf and Pitbull were on the same side. This was completely suicidal. But he didn't dare say it outright because he still needed to cling to Chuge's coattails. Let's wait and see, Chuge said nonchalantly. He needed to recover his physical strength. Hungry all night, his physical strength was recovering slowly, which was not a good sign. So, now our teammates are Vulture, Spider, Bat, and besides Pitbull and Grey Wolf, the opposing side also includes all the stray dogs of King Mai Park, Zhao Panda analyzed somberly, feeling a chill in his heart. It's over. They had entered a nightmare scenario. Chapter 21 The final battle approaches. We have overlooked the most important issue, which is eating. Chuge said somberly under the night sky, noting the presence of stray dogs nearby, unsure if they would relay information to others. Zhao Panda swallowed hard and said, you shouldn't have mentioned it, but now that you have, I'm starving. I wonder if there are any bamboo plants nearby. Teddy widened her eyes and said in a low voice, are you that adaptable already? Are you thinking about eating bamboo? Zhao Panda rolled her eyes and retorted, yeah, what about you? Want to eat shit? Teddy bristled and stood up, ready to leap past Chuge to scratch Zhao Panda. Stop it. Chuge said sternly, frightening Teddy into lying down instantly, her gaze fixed on Zhao Panda with hatred. Zhao Panda appeared quite proud, shooting Teddy a provocative glance before turning to Chuge and suggesting, boss, shall we go find something to eat? Otherwise, it will be tough after dawn. Unlike the ant phase, as mammals, they required a substantial amount of food. Especially at their young age. If it were an adult male lion, it could survive several days without food, but even so, it would affect his physical strength. Those predators that could go half a month without eating had feasted before and had thick fat reserves. Chuge, as a young lion who had been exerting himself, needed to eat to replenish his physical strength. Chuge nodded, agreeing with Zhao Panda's suggestion. About another hour went by. Chuge, together with Zhao Panda and Teddy, moved stealthily. Teddy's sense of smell was sharper than Chuge's, and by following her nose, they avoided the stray dogs while searching for food in King Mai Park. Chuge had been hesitating about one thing. That was whether or not to eat raw meat. If future competition tasks lasted for days or a month, he couldn't go without eating. As a lion, he couldn't cook stir-fry, nor could he even grill meat with fire. But being human in his past lives, the thought of eating raw meat made him feel sick. Forget it, I won't think about that for now. Chuge consoled himself, deciding to get through the night first. On the other side of the park, underneath a tree, Grey Wolf lay resting, his eyes glancing up at the branches where a vulture perched. What do you think? 100 survival points are nothing to you, how about taking a gamble? Being a wolf oppressed by dogs, are you content with that? Vulture asked. Grey Wolf's eyes flickered, he was indeed resentful. From the start until now, he hadn't killed a single prey. The disabled survivors were all bitten to death by the pitbull, forcing him to submit to the pitbull and serve him, which was extremely frustrating. After much hesitation, Grey Wolf gritted his teeth and said, fine. I'll take the risk with you. Afterwards, I hope you will keep your word. We shall no longer interfere with each other and hunt based on our abilities. Vulture left and said, then let's go. You should be able to smell the lion and the pitbull. Grey Wolf nodded and then got up to lead the way, searching for Chuge. Several minutes later, they found Chuge, Zhao Panda, and Teddy in front of a vending machine. Zhao Panda was using her sharp claws to scratch at the glass, having already made a crack. With a bit more effort, she could break through. Listening to the irritating sound of claws scraping against glass, Grey Wolf got goosebumps all over. Let's work together. He approached, calling out as he walked. Chuge was already aware of his approach because Teddy had smelled him even before he appeared. What did Vulture say to you? Chuge asked, turning around. He needed to ask clearly first to avoid another internal mole situation. The experiences he had before made him distrustful of other survivors, he only trusted his own judgment. The Grey Wolf crouched down in front of him and replied, we'll work together to take down the pitbull. Afterwards, we go our separate ways, each hunting on our own, and we can't protect other survivors. Chuge nodded and said, you can't have designs on my two subordinates here. The Grey Wolf's face darkened as he looked at Zhao Panda and Teddy, his wolfish eyes nearly spitting fire. In the end, he nodded. First, they would take care of the pitbull before anything else. Were verbal agreements trustworthy for what came afterwards? Once this game was over, meeting again would be incredibly difficult. He wasn't the least bit afraid of retaliation. Chuge didn't fully trust him either as they began to discuss how to deal with the pitbull. Zhao Panda was still striving to break open the vending machine. I want to drink Coca-Cola. I want to drink Coca-Cola. He muttered this repeatedly, while swinging his claws with great effort. Teddy beside him was speechless. Indeed, a total couch potato. The pitbull seemed to be resting, too, not making any moves. Some time passed. At last, Zhao Panda managed to shatter the glass and threw out the snacks and drinks from inside. Teddy pressed down on a bag of chips, bursting the package before starting to munch away contentedly. Zhao Panda cast a disdainful glance at her and said, "You like chips so much, don't tell me you're also a couch potato? One with a lullaby voice? Spill it, how often do you voice chat with clueless young boys all day long?" Teddy couldn't be bothered with him and focused on eating. "Come on, eat something as my treat," Chuge said to the gray wolf, and after speaking, he turned to find a pack of spicy strips, bit it with his teeth, and then tore it open. The gray wolf didn't hesitate, he wasn't used to eating raw flesh either. As these snacks were all packaged in plastic bags, it was difficult for them to tear them open, especially when their paws became greasy, making it even more challenging to tear the bags. After eating 2 packets of chips, the gray wolf left. Time moved on to the wee hours of the morning. The park became even more desolate. Just as Chuge and his companions were almost satisfied, a number of stray dogs slowly gathered. Some hid in the bushes and undergrowth of the forest, others came straight along the pedestrian walkway. The gray wolf also came with the pack. This was part of their plan. The gray wolf would signal to the others, bringing the pit bull over, and then they would launch a surprise attack on it. "They're here." Chuge spoke in a heavy tone, while Zhao Panda and Teddy turned around with him. In a large tree not far away, a vulture lay in wait, ready to strike at any moment. Zhao Panda shivered and gritted his teeth. "Boss, you don't think all these stray dogs will bite me to death, do you?" Chuge comforted him. "A wolf couldn't kill you, how could a dog?" Zhao Panda instantly became confident, stepping forward 3 paces to stand in front of Chuge. Chuge turned to Teddy and said, "You retreat first. Later, pretend to be a stray dog and blend into the pack. These dogs can't possibly be smart enough to recognize all their companions." Teddy nodded and immediately turned to leave. Soon, the pit bull appeared. In the darkness of the night, he walked openly along the stone stairway. Although not large in stature, he radiated an extreme threat, exerting great pressure on Chuge and his associates. "That's them, especially that panda, help me cripple him, I'll kill him myself." The gray wolf growled with teeth clenched, his tone filled with hatred. Zhao Panda trembled and cursed inwardly, "This guy better not be taking this for real." The pit bull gave a cruel smile but didn't respond to the gray wolf. Instead, he looked at Chuge and said, "I gave you a chance, and you didn't cherish it, so die." With that, he let out a great shout, and all the stray dogs charged at Chuge and Zhao Panda. The battle erupted. Chapter 22, Madness, Shocking Humanity. A bunch of mongrels. "You still want to eat your panda, Grandpa?" Zhao Panda roared as he charged forward, only to be knocked to the ground by several stray dogs. He began to roll furiously, pressing down on the stray dogs, causing them to howl. Chuge also sprang into action, using his speed and reflexes to dodge the stray dogs and charge toward the pit bull. The pit bull, already harboring murderous intent, charged at Chuge as well. Howls and snarls from stray dogs came from all directions. Chuge leaped over them, with only the pit bull and the gray wolf ahead. Just as he was about to collide with the pit bull, he dodged the pit bull's claws with a flicker of movement and rolled into the nearby bushes. He then tensed his body and used his change color ability to blend in with the surroundings. When the pit bull turned back, Chuge had vanished. What's going on? Is it another survival skill, or is he too fast? The pit bull thought with a frown, feeling uneasy. He immediately rushed over, but Chuge was nowhere to be found in the bushes. Impossible. Before he could think further, Chuge suddenly leaped out from the side of the bushes, his body changing color as he appeared out of thin air. Taken by surprise, Chuge had sent the pit bull flying from the side. But that was all. Chuge felt dizzy, as if he had hit marble, and his body ached all over. This guy is way too tough. The pit bull got up and charged again, and Chuge immediately leapt into the bushes, changing color once more. This time, the pit bull was lost again. Chuge's scent was all around, and the pit bull couldn't rely on his nose to find him. Then suddenly, Chuge charged out from a different direction, but this time, the pit bull tensed and immediately spotted him, turning and swiping with a claw. Smack! Chuge's face was struck by the pit bull's paw, nearly knocking him unconscious on the spot. He rolled backward on the ground, and the pit bull pounced at the chance. Oh! Along with a wolf's howl, the gray wolf sped forth, biting the pit bull's neck midair and rolling with him onto the grass, then diving into the bushes, which subsequently began to shake violently. Chuge shook his head to clear it and slowly got up. Damn it, does this guy think he's a tiger or something? He spit out a mouthful of blood and cursed. Even with his great speed, he was no match for the pit bull. They were not even close to being on the same level. This guy was simply terrifying. The growls from the pit bull and gray wolf fighting in the bushes added a chilling touch to the night. Meanwhile, The on-duty security guards at King Mai Park also noticed this area on the surveillance videos. "Everyone assemble, there's a wolf in the park, fighting with stray dogs." A middle-aged security guard excitedly picked up the walkie-talkie and said. He was the closest to the scene, he had heard the wolf's howl loud and clear. "There's a wolf." The other guards, originally tired, were instantly invigorated upon hearing this. They had lived most of their lives and had never seen a real wolf outside of a zoo. Before long, the guards were all heading toward the area where the survivors were fighting. Chuge sneaked into the bushes, changed color again, and looked for an opportunity to strike. It had to be said, this pit bull was truly fierce, facing off against a gray wolf and showing no signs of weakness. The valiant nature of the gray wolf was spurred, and they battled bloodily. Both survivors soon became covered in wounds. Their continuous growls sent shivers down Chuge's spine. The combat of beasts. Filled with the thrill of raw savagery. Not far away, Zhao Panda was being bitten and wailed miserably by a group of stray dogs. "You pack of sons of bitches. Damn it. Stop biting my ass. Your fucking mother, where the hell do you think you're squeezing into? Are you hyenas? Boss. Help me." Zhao Panda couldn't keep playing tough and soon began to cry for help. Seeing that the fight between the pit bull and the gray wolf was too fierce for him to intervene, Chuge could only run back to support Zhao Panda. He relied on his change color ability to blend in with the grass. If one did not look closely, they wouldn't notice him approaching at all. The hungry stray dogs were too frantic to observe their surroundings. As Chuge took down one stray dog after another, Zhao Panda was rescued. At this moment, Zhao Panda was covered in blood, most of the dried mud on his body had fallen off, and he looked utterly miserable, especially his buttocks, from which a large chunk of flesh had been bitten off, creating a shockingly gruesome sight. "These sons of bitches." Zhao Panda stood up furiously, his voice edged with a sob. The surrounding stray dogs were preparing to pounce again. "Hey!" Just then, a shout came through, as 6 security guards armed with flashlights and iron rods came running over. They yelled as they swung their iron rods, attempting to disperse the stray dogs. But more and more stray dogs gathered, eventually numbering over 30. "When did our park get so many stray dogs? Isn't this too frightening? Quick, call for backup, we can't handle this alone." "What backup?" "Just call the police, there's a wolf here." "Mommy, I'll never dare to patrol alone again." The security guards were scared by the multitude of stray dogs, and soon they noticed the fight in the bushes not far away, where terrifying growls presaged a vicious struggle. Just hearing the noises made their scalps tingle, deterring them from getting any closer. Someone even took out their phone to record the scene. Chuge instructed Zhao Panda, "Go. Go support Grey Wolf. Once they kill the pit bull, these stray dogs will scatter." After saying that, he charged ahead first. Zhao Panda followed tremulously. A security guard rubbed his eyes and pointed, exclaiming, "Is that a panda over there? Panda?" The other 5 security guards were startled and turned to look as well. Although Zhao Panda was bloodied, the mud on his body had fallen off, making it clear that he was indeed a panda. The national treasure. The middle-aged security guard trembled, knowing they would be in deep trouble if the national treasure died here. Thus, they plucked up their courage to rush forward, trying to disperse the pack of dogs. At that moment, the gray wolf and the pit bull burst out from the bushes, rolling over the grass several times before standing up. Everyone looked on and gasped in shock. The gray wolf and the pit bull were covered in wounds, with some areas even revealing bare bones. Such a ferocious fight was truly horrifying. Chuge noticed that part of the pit bull's mouth had been bitten off, blood dripping constantly, but its eyes still held a crazed and vicious killing intent. Without warning, the pit bull turned and lunged at him. They were already close, and with a terrifying burst of speed, the pit bull overpowered Chuge before he could dodge, tackling him to the ground. Roar, 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 the pit bull began to ferociously tear at Chuge, flesh flew in all directions. "Boss!" Zhao Panda yelled, reflexively charging over and knocking the pit bull away. Everything happened too fast. Chuge couldn't open his right eye, and his face and neck were searing with pain. He felt as if his face had been mangled, the pain nearly making him pass out. In that moment, Chuge truly felt how close death was. Just as he tried to stand up, the pit bull pounced again, throwing Zhao Panda to the side, followed by a burst of brutal and insane tearing. In the night, such sounds of tearing were like the laughter of a demon. Chapter 23 Male Lion Instinct. Hearing the sounds of tearing and biting beside him, Chuge struggled to regain consciousness, painfully getting to his feet. Now he could only see with one eye, and in the night, the pit bull's silhouette seemed so crazed, intent on tearing Zhao Panda into pieces. Zhao Panda didn't scream, he couldn't anymore. Chuge felt as if the world was spinning, catching a vague glimpse of Zhao Panda's terrible state, and thinking of how Zhao Panda had unhesitatingly saved him, He felt a surge of blood rushing to his crown. Blood vessels swelled in his left eye as he let out a fierce roar and charged at the pit bull. Thud. The pit bull staggered from the impact, while Chuj felt as if his forehead was about to split open, his brain exploding with pain. At that moment, he heard a sharp cry of a bird. Instinctively, he opened his left eye and saw the vulture swooping down from the sky, its iron claws piercing through the pit bull's back. The pit bull, fierce and tenacious, seemed not to feel pain as it turned around to bite, but tragically missed as the vulture dodged. And so, the vulture began a circuitous combat, its claws like the sickle of the Grim Reaper, occasionally striking down, forcing the pit bull to focus on him. Bald bird. Why must you oppose me? The pit bull asked furiously, looking like a zombie dog with many chunks of flesh torn off by the gray wolf, a terrifying sight. The vulture's gaze was icy as he replied, survival of the fittest, either I become the prey, or you will. Meanwhile, the security guards were shocked. Any such a big bird? Is that an eagle? Idiot, that's a vulture. My god, vultures, wolves, pandas, is our park a zoo? Did anyone call the police yet? Hurry up. The vulture might also be a protected species. The security guards tried to drive away the stray dogs while pulling out their phones to record. They had a premonition that if this incident were uploaded online, it would definitely go viral. Or even explode in popularity. The gray wolf shook its head and stood up, moving towards the pit bull once again. Its injuries seemed lighter than the pit bull's, but unlike the pit bull, which didn't fear pain, the gray wolf could feel the true extent of its suffering. But it had become desperate in its rage. At this moment, it had truly become a wolf. It cared not for the humans nearby, nor for its enemy, it only wanted to tear the pit bull to pieces. Born a wild wolf, it would not be humiliated by a dog. A woo-oo, it raised its head and howled, the sound carrying far and wide. In the residential areas near the park, many people sleeping were startled awake, and some night owls were frightened. A wolf's howl for miles, stirring fear in people's hearts. The gray wolf and the pit bull fought viciously once more, this time in front of the security guards, not in the bushes. Primitive, wild, violent, cruel. The security guards watched with their hearts pounding, those with weaker constitutions unable to bear the sight. Chuj crawled to Zhao Panda's side, looking at his friend's figure that no longer resembled its former self, his heart aching immensely. Why did you save me? He asked through gritted teeth. Zhao Panda opened his eyes with difficulty, managing a strained smile. You saved me first. Boss, don't be sad. I still have survival points, I won't turn into a beast. Remember to take me flying later. In the end, he took his last breath, his vitality ceasing, sinking into endless darkness. Eliminated. Chuj fell silent, lying prostrate in front of Zhao Panda's body, speechless. After a fierce battle, his combat strength was greatly reduced, so much so that he couldn't even defeat a domestic dog. But he wasn't panicked, instead, anger surged in him. Reason told him he had to stay calm. He had not retained any survival points, and once he died, he would completely become an exhibit in the zoo. The survival points earned from killing enemies in each survival competition would only be tallied after the mission ended, and the prerequisite to obtaining these points was to stay alive. If one died in the survival competition, no matter how many enemies were killed, there would be no survival points awarded. But no matter how he tried to persuade himself, the anger simply wouldn't subside. At first, he thought with the cheetah speed he had exchanged for, he would outstrip everyone in this round of the survival competition, but reality gave him a rude awakening. He looked back at the pit bull that was fighting, a chilling glint flashing in his left eye. I should retreat and hide, but why won't my body obey me? I really want to pounce. Chuj clenched his teeth as he thought, then suddenly, he considered a possibility. Instincts. The instincts of a male lion. The pride of the king of the savannah. A lion would retreat when overpowered, but to be frightened off by a single dog in a one-on-one fight was an insult to the status of a male lion. Aside from domesticated lions, which lion would be so cowardly? The gray wolf was entangled with the pit bull, and the vulture would swoop down from time to time. The stray dogs were terrified by the brutal fight, with not a single one daring to rush forward. The battle quickly reached a deadlock, with the pit bull pinned down by the gray wolf. It fiercely bit into the wolf's neck, using the wolf's body to shield against the vulture's claws. The gray wolf was already exhausted, finding it hard to break free. It was the same for the pit bull, who could only maintain this position, unable to tear the gray wolf apart. Woof, 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 the sound of Daddy's barking suddenly came from within the pack, calling non-stop toward the pit bull. Throat of noise. Everyone who heard her voice instinctively felt irritable. Get lost. A man shouted at Teddy, but she remained unmoved. Although Teddy appeared calm, she was extremely anxious inside. Seeing the tragic corpse of Zhao Panda, she suddenly felt a profound sadness, akin to when the hare dies, the fox grieves. Even though she often argued with Zhao Panda, they were companions, after all. She experienced the cruelty of the survival arena once again. This time the impact was even more profound. Woo 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 woo. The sound of a police siren suddenly came from the distance, signaling uncontrollable forces were about to arrive. If the police took them away from King Mai Park, it would also count as a mission failure. Chuj took a deep breath, looked at Teddy, and called, "Follow me." After saying that, he turned to leave, and Teddy quickly followed. Before entering the woods, he glanced at the corpse of Zhao Panda, then vanished into the darkness of the forest. The pitbull suddenly released the gray wolf, kicked it away, and then made a strenuous effort to rise and quickly darted into another patch of woods, the other stray dogs fleeing with him. The security personnel didn't dare to intervene. Even after the battlefield quieted down, they still felt as if they were in a dream. 10 minutes later, Chuj and Teddy hid again in the cottage on top of the slide, 2 meters above the ground, where humans searching the park would likely not think to look for them. Lying down, Chuj finally relaxed, as endless fatigue washed over him, making his eyelids incredibly heavy. Teddy also lay down to avoid being seen. "What should we do now?" she asked softly, her voice trembling, obviously terrified. Chuj's eyes gleamed as he said, "Vengeance." Even if he couldn't kill the pitbull, he had to find a way to get the pitbull eliminated. He decided that once his physical strength was restored, he would lure the pitbull into the presence of humans, then escape using his change color ability. Once the pitbull was removed from King Mai Park, all of its wounds would have been endured in vain. If the pitbull had not left any survival points behind, then it was as good as dead. Chapter 24, Never Say Die Revenge? "He's so ferocious, let's not go," Teddy whispered, clearly terrified by the pitbull. It was the first time she had seen such a brutal fight. Chuj glanced at her and said, "You stay here then, I'll go alone." Teddy's heart wavered at his words, but she didn't have the courage to say she wanted to follow him. She was not bound by life and death ties with Chuj and Zhao Panda, not even friends, they were merely coerced to follow him. How could she possibly march to her death now? Chuj didn't force her. That she had dared to step forward to harass the pitbull during the fight was impressive enough. Besides, if she came along, it wouldn't be convenient for him to act. "You, just wait to die." Chuj's gaze flickered as he bitterly thought to himself. Looking back on his past and present, he had never hated someone so much. With the arrival of the police cars, the officers started to search King Mai Park after gathering information. On the balconies of nearby apartments, many people watched with curiosity. The howls that had sounded earlier reached many ears, and now they saw so many police cars, which led to rampant speculation. "Why are there so many police officers? I heard wolf howls earlier, did you? How could there be wolves? Maybe a wolf escaped from the zoo? Don't scare us, please." The residents discussed among themselves, turning on more lights in their apartments as curiosity grew. This night was destined to be sleepless. As the air chilled, Chuj rested for a few hours and regained some physical strength. Thankfully, his injuries were superficial and not life-threatening for now. He stood up and left without a word. Teddy watched his departing figure, her eyes filled with struggle. Just as Chuj was about to enter the underbrush, she bit her lip and decided to follow him. Chuj looked straight ahead and asked, "Why have you come?" "You will slow me down," Teddy whispered. "I'll help you find the pitbull. Don't worry, I won't interfere with you. It's daylight, and more people will definitely show up. I can easily find someone to rely on." Teddy was a common pet dog, and unlike Chuj, she wasn't afraid of being seen. Hearing this, Chuj no longer spoke, tacitly approving her plan. King Mai Park was busy with young people jogging and elderly people taking walks and exercising in the early morning. However, many areas were cordoned off by the police, arousing the curiosity of passers-by. "Have you heard? A panda died here last night. I heard it was bitten to death by a wolf." "Come on, this is downtown. How could there be pandas and wolves?" "It wasn't bitten by a wolf. It was a pit bull. Haven't you seen the video? It's blown up online." "Right, the pit bull fought with a group of stray dogs against a panda, a wolf, and even a vulture. There seemed to be a lion too." "A lion? You're really good at exaggerating, aren't you?" The residents chattered, some of them taking out their smartphones to search for news. In the age of big data, news spreads fast, especially the bizarre and shocking kind. More and more reporters rushed to the scene, making King Mai Park exceptionally lively that morning. Chuj lay in the grass, silently observing the journalists in the distance. He could now be certain that the news he had seen on the day he entered the survival arena was fabricated by a survivor. A wild boar injuring 2 adult tigers, it sounded ridiculous. Yet, it might actually be true. At that moment, Teddy came up to him and said, "I've found the pit bull. He is hiding under the pavilion by the lake, Where there's a dirt hole. As she spoke, she pointed the way for Chuj. Following her paw, he saw a lake beyond the nearby sidewalk. Across the lake was a stone pavilion with a couple of students doing their homework inside, and residents walking by on the pathway. The stone pavilion was very close to the lake. Even with one eye injured, Chuj could see the dirt hole, which resembled a sewer entrance. If the pitbull were to escape, it could only go around the stone pavilion, otherwise, it would fall into the lake. Chuj immediately made a decision. He leaped out of the underbrush and started shouting at the nearby police and journalists. After yelling for a while, a journalist finally turned around. "Look! The young lion!" the reporter exclaimed, causing everyone to turn their heads. Whoosh! There was a commotion among the crowd as the policeman immediately pounced. Chuj turned and ran, pumping his legs. He dashed along the pedestrian path by the lake, intending to cross the stone bridge ahead to reach the opposite shore. The residents along the way were alarmed and, under the broad daylight, could clearly see Chuj's face. "It's a lion. The lion that only appeared in zoos and on television documentaries. It really is a lion. How did it lose an eye? Haven't you heard? Last night's animal fight, it was bitten by a pit bull. Wow, this is headline news. Chase." In a moment, more and more people began chasing after Chuj, a vast and impressive sight. Teddy followed the crowd from behind, sweating for Chuj in her heart, her feelings mixed. Both novices, so why must he be so fearless? Once over the stone bridge, he quickly reached the stone pavilion, to the astonishment of two primary school students doing homework. The one-eyed Chuj looked particularly horrifying, especially with blood still smeared all over him. The two primary school students were frightened by the sight of so many people chasing after him, both jumping onto a bench in terror. Chuj walked into the burrow, shouting down into it. He had already picked up the scent of the pit bull. Soon, two policemen caught him, but he continued to shout into the burrow. "What's going on? Go check to see if there are other animals in the hole," a middle-aged policeman instructed, and upon hearing this, 4 policemen immediately approached. The roar of the pit bull followed, causing the crowd behind to grow restless. They all wondered what was hidden inside the burrow. Even a strong pit bull could not fight off so many people, it carefully emerged. The pitiful yet fierce appearance of the pit bull left people trembling with fear. Seeing the wounds on the young lion's body, they realized that everything from the previous night was true. People took out their phones, excitedly taking pictures. After being captured, a policeman tied up the pit bull's mouth with a rope. Chuj, on the other hand, was not gagged, being only as big as a cat and feigning a docile look, he evoked sympathy. No matter how much the pit bull tried to pretend otherwise, it couldn't succeed. Ugly, horrifying, and bigger in size than Chuj, anyone looking on couldn't help but feel for Chuj and fear the pit bull. "Humphrey, do you really want to perish together? I have survival points, do you?" The pit bull growled silently, its meaning lost on humans, but Chuj understood. Chuj sneered, "Between you and me, it's do or die." The pit bull gave a scornful smile. "Fool." Swoosh! Just then, a figure descended from the sky at high speed. It was the vulture. Everyone was focused on Chuj and failed to notice the arrival of this raptor. The vulture extended its talons, piercing the pit bull's shoulder, forcibly hoisting it up. The 2 policemen nearby were startled and instinctively stepped back. The pit bull turned its head, ready to bite the vulture. As the vulture flew towards the stone pavilion and released its grip, the pit bull, due to inertia, crashed against a pillar of the pavilion, immediately knocked unconscious. With a thud, it fell to the ground. Chuj's eyes instantly became fierce, and he bit the hand holding him. "Ah!" The policeman screamed in pain, reflexively letting go. Chuj hit the ground and immediately pounced toward the pit bull. The terrifying burst of energy allowed him to hit the pit bull in the blink of an eye, his jaws locking onto the pit bull's throat. Blood gushed into Chuj's throat like a fountain, making his appearance even more ferocious. Chapter 25, Killing the Enemy. First seeing the young lion bite the pit bull's throat, the people around instantly panicked. "Quick, stop it." "How to stop?" "Can't pull it away." "Be gentle. This is a nationally protected animal." "Really? Is that true?" "It's a world-protected animal." The police were in disarray as they grabbed Chuj's hind legs, but no matter how hard they pulled, Chuj simply wouldn't let go. Because Chuj was a lion, they didn't dare to use brute force. In comparison to the lion, the pit bull had negligible value. If they accidentally killed this young lion, they were afraid of being held responsible. In midair, the vulture frowned, looking down at Chuj. He had not expected his prey to be snatched away by Chuj. With so many people below being vigilant, he didn't dare to swoop down again. Teddy stood on the stone bridge, watching the chaos beside the stone pavilion with an extremely complex look in her eyes. Chuj's decisiveness and madness had shocked her. Fight to the death. He was not just saying it for fun. Before long, the pit bull was bitten to death by Chuj. Until its last breath, it had not imagined it would die under the jaws of Chuj, the lion. Ding. You have successfully hunted an enemy and earned 100 survival points. As this survivor has already hunted 7 enemies in this survival challenge task, you will receive half of his survival points reward. Congratulations, you earned 350 survival points. An indifferent female voice rang out in Chuj's mind, causing him to subconsciously let go. The police behind him fell backward due to inertia. He seized the opportunity and immediately jumped away. The journalists, seeing him rushing over, scattered and hid, not daring to block his way. After weaving through the crowd, Chuj dived into the bushes and quickly changed color. The police, hot on his trail, suddenly lost sight of him. He fled all the way. As swift as the wind, as quick as lightning. Chuj moved away from the crowd and hid in a sandpit by a swing, where no one was walking or playing nearby. He lowered his head and his body turned the color of the earth, invisible to anyone passing by. He sighed with relief. Even now, his heart was still racing. He even felt as if he was dreaming. He had killed the pit bull. He had done it. A sense of unprecedented satisfaction filled his heart. Zhao Panda, I have avenged you. He muttered softly, as if speaking only to himself. Then, he began to reflect on the cold female voice he had just heard. The pit bull had actually killed 7 survivors. Savagely merciless. There were only 12 survivors in a single camp, and aside from the 3 undercover, there were only 2 survivors still alive. But earning survival points was truly tough. Chuj had taken a risk to kill the pit bull and had only earned 450 survival points. Only then did he realize how precious the 1,000 survival points from the survival trial really were. Thinking about this, Chuj suddenly felt so tired, and he longed to sleep. But he knew it was not the time to sleep. Just a few more hours, and he could complete the challenge. This battle had left him battered and blind in his right eye. It was indeed brutal. Then again, aside from the pit bull and the gray wolf, who else is an undercover? Chuj frowned as he considered this. At that moment, he suddenly caught sight of a skunk waddling out from the bushes, sniffing at the ground. Could the last undercover be this fella? Chuj was taken aback. Except for their initial encounter, he had not seen the skunk all evening. Amidst the human search, the skunk had remained unharmed, which was quite impressive. Watching the skunk's demeanor, Chuj sighed inwardly, finding the creature really annoying. Whimper, skunk suddenly began to wail, incessantly slapping its own face with its paws before it abruptly collapsed onto the ground with a thud. Chuj was stunned. What was wrong with this guy? He took a closer look and involuntarily gasped in shock. A large spider was crawling over skunk's face and onto its neck. The legs of this spider were like sections of bamboo, alternating between yellow, orange and black, joined together. Burrowing wolf spider. Chuj swallowed hard. It seemed that the undercover agent from the other side was this spider. He had heard from Skunk that spiders were also part of the opposite camp. Burrowing wolf spiders were among the most venomous in the spider family, the most notorious being the Black Widow. Chuj suddenly felt a chill running down his spine. Had he inadvertently encountered this creature last night, wouldn't he have been silently bitten by it? He couldn't help but feel afraid afterwards. In this survival arena, one truly couldn't underestimate anyone. The previous Zhao Panda also seemed weak, but was brazen enough to toy with 2 undercover agents. While Chuj was reflecting, the burrowing wolf spider vanished from sight. Half an hour later, an old man passing by discovered Skunk's body. After confirming that Skunk was dead, the old man carried Skunk to a nearby trash bin and dumped it inside. He dusted off his hands and walked away with an air of calm as though nothing had happened. Chuj inwardly thought to himself that elders truly had seen it all. Time continued to pass. Chuj, relying on his change color ability, was safely hidden. No matter how the police and residents searched, they couldn't find him. In the end, he safely completed this round of the survival competition. This round of survival competition is over. You have successfully passed this challenge and received 100 survival points. You have earned a total of 800 survival points for killing enemies during the competition. Since you are the top killer of this survival competition, your survival points will be doubled. You now have a total of 1800 survival points. An indifferent female voice repeatedly echoed in Chuj's mind, and then everything before his eyes turned dark as a feeling of weightlessness set in. He was immediately thrilled. 1800 survival points. What a huge windfall. Before long, Chuj felt himself landing on a sofa. When he opened his eyes, he found himself back in the survival house. He was sitting on the sofa in his human form, a screen floating in front of him displaying the tally of the survival points he had earned. Killing the white dove, gained 100 survival points. Killing Zhao Panda, gained 250 survival points. Killing Pitbull, gained 450 survival points. And then he saw a message that took him aback. The Pitbull you killed, due to a lack of survival points, has been eliminated from the survival arena and will be reincarnated in a zoo in your city. Please check the details. The pitbull didn't reserve survival points? Chuj was momentarily stunned. The seemingly fierce pitbull turned out to be a gambler at heart. He had truly believed that pitbull had reserved survival points. What surprised him the most was that he could actually view the scenes of pitbull's reincarnation. This was terrifying. Every survivor could see the fate of those they had eliminated. What did this imply? What did the survival arena want them to experience? Chuj took a deep breath and was about to get up when 3 new emails popped up on the screen. Survivor Zhao Poor Thing requests to add you as a friend. Survivor Nangong requests to add you as a friend. Survivor Song in the Windy Night requests to add you as a friend. Chuj was puzzled. How did they add him as a friend? He looked carefully at the screen and found an icon on the left hand that said Round Settlement, which he clicked on to see the names and kill data of the 2 camps, with the survivors' real names annotated next to their survival entity, quite clear. Zhao Poor Thing is Teddy. Nangong is Zhao Panda. Song in the Windy Night is Vulture. Chapter 26 Survival Arena Rankings. Chuj agreed to the 3 friend requests. The first one to message him was Zhao Panda Nangong. The chat interface was very similar to a smartphone's messaging app. Whatever he was thinking, he could type out those words in the input box, and he could also freely delete them. Nangong, boss, that was awesome. Number 1 in killing the enemy, even the pitbulls got slaughtered by you. Nangong, from now on, I'll cling to your powerful coattails. Nangong, boss, what about your survival team? Can you pull me in? Chujsiki, haven't set up a survival team yet, wanna be one of its founding members? Nangong, boss, you want to create a survival team? I heard from the veterans that it takes 10,000 survival points. How long will you have to save? Chujsiki, can you wait that long? Nangong, I absolutely can wait. This survival competition had turned the 2 into friends through life and death, and Chuj couldn't help but laugh at his messages. Nangong liked to talk a lot. After chatting for quite a while, Chuj forcibly ended the conversation with him. The one named Teddy Zhao Poor Thing also sent him congratulatory messages. Chuj coldly replied with and then ended the conversation. He then opened up the chat with Song in the Windy Night. Song in the Windy Night, good lad, pretty good at sniping kills, huh? Chujsiki, too kind. Song in the Windy Night, how about joining my survival team? We, the Sacred Majesty of the Firmament, are ranked in the top 50 survival teams. Chujsiki, I'll think about it. Song in the Windy Night, okay. Sacred Majesty of the Firmament? What's that? Chuj was curious. There were rankings for survival teams? Just as this thought emerged, 2 leaderboards popped up in the holographic screen. Enemy Elimination Rankings, Evil Dragon, Enemy Kills, 9,981 Wolf Emperor, Enemy Kills, 9,923 Want to Live, Enemy Kills, 9,874 Hyena Slayer, Enemy Kills, 9,845 Yi Yadao, Enemy Kills, 9,642 King of the Pacific Ocean, Enemy Kills, 9,641 Fish Swallowing Sea, Enemy Kills, 9,587 Zeus, Enemy Kills, 9,466. Survival Team Power Rankings, First place, Sky Palace, 18 members, Second place, Trio Gods Group, 3 members, Third place, Olympus Pantheon, 18 members, Fourth place, Atlantis, 18 members, Fifth place, Darkskin Empire, 17 members, Sixth place, Wolf Clan, 18 members, 7th place, Heaven's Elephant Tower, 18 members, 8th place, Survival Storm, 18 members. The 2 leaderboards only recorded the top 100. Looking at the enemies killed displayed on the leaderboard, Chuj's scalp tingled. Perhaps this was the creator's punishment for humanity. Humanity had killed countless animals, and now, humanity would turn on itself in the same brutal fashion, with only humans dying. Chuj's focus shifted to the survival team power rankings. The Trio Gods Group, ranking 2nd, was quite impressive. While other teams had 17 or 18 members, they only had 3, yet managed to rank 2nd, virtually slapping the face of the number 1 ranked Sky Palace. Suddenly, Chuj was very curious about just how many survivors there were in the survival arena. Before his rebirth, he had no idea the survival arena even existed, given that hundreds of thousands, or even millions of people disappeared mysteriously around the world each year. But looking at the enemy elimination rankings, he knew the number of survivors was an unpredictable figure. Chuj couldn't help but speculate if the world he was reborn into was a parallel universe. In my previous life at this age, I seldom heard of cities where disappearance cases occurred consecutively. According to the rules of the survival arena, basically every day a good number of people would disappear. Chuj left the survival arena with confusion. He had disappeared for another day and just thinking about explaining to his parents and teachers gave him a headache. Back in reality, he found himself in the men's restroom where he had vanished. He walked out of the restroom and discovered that classes were still in session. He hesitated for a moment, then headed towards the nearby stairs, intending to go directly to the teacher's office. He planned to attend class first and have the teacher call his parents for him. All the way there, he kept thinking about what survival skills to exchange for. A growth accelerator was a must. His physique was too weak now and it put him at a disadvantage. The cheapest growth accelerator required 1,500 survival points. With the remaining 300 survival points, he could only exchange for a level 1 survival skill at most. Moreover, he had to keep at least 100 survival points for emergency purposes. Otherwise, he would meet the same fate as the pit bull. As Chuj weighed his options, he reached the teacher's office at the corner of the 4th floor. Inside, only 3 teachers were correcting homework. He glanced around, and his homeroom teacher, Zubing, was not there. After a moment's hesitation, Chuj decided to head straight for the classroom. After all, he hadn't brought his textbooks with him. Arriving on the 5th floor, he walked along the corridor and, upon seeing the high school seniors diligently studying in the classrooms, couldn't help but reflect. This was the life a person should have. Soon, he arrived at the entrance of Class 7 of the senior year. An English class was in progress, taught by a middle-aged woman wearing professional attire. She was writing sentences on the blackboard and reciting English aloud. Students in the front row were taken aback when they saw Chuj standing at the doorway. "Good morning, teacher, I've come for class," said Chuj, his voice clear but not harsh. All the students looked up at him, their expressions varying. The English teacher turned to look at him, her face showing a strange expression as she asked, "Chuj, where have you been?" Chuj calmly replied, "I had some trouble and can't say." He feigned a sigh, sparking curiosity. "Take a seat for now," the English teacher said with a frown before putting down her chalk and adding, "Everyone, review the sentence structures we just covered. I'm going to step out and call your homeroom teacher." Chuj returned to his seat under the odd gazes of his classmates. As soon as the English teacher left the classroom, the room burst into chatter. "Chuj is back. Did he really disappear for a day? After class yesterday, do any of you know where he went? To skip class for a day and still be so calm, amazing." Looking at him, could it be that something happened at home? Chuj returned to his seat, listening to the others gossip and couldn't help but feel speechless. His deskmate, Chen Xunji, nudged him and asked, "Were you kidnapped or something?" Chuj rolled his eyes at him and said, "I went to save the world." "Yeah, right," Chen Xunji said, clearly disbelieving. Tang Zujia turned her head and asked, "Are you sick with a fever again?" Chuj's changes over the past month had been enormous, and this mysterious disappearance sparked many rumors in the class. After all, in the pressure cooker environment of their final school year, an incident like this provided a chance for gossip and some relief for the class. "No, it's complicated, and I shouldn't talk about it. Don't ask anymore, I still need to figure out how to explain this to my family," Chuj said with a smile, shaking his head. Just a moment ago, he had been fighting for his life, covered in wounds, and now he was back in the classroom, looking at these youthful faces. His heart was filled with a mixture of emotions. "Your parents don't know you're back yet?" Chen Xunji exclaimed with wide eyes, astonished. The students around followed his gaze, turning their heads, looking at Chuj with surprise. The once somewhat shy Chuj had become so bold? He had disappeared for a day, didn't inform his family, and just showed up for school? This level of mental fortitude. Chuj glared at Chen Xunji and said, "Focus on studying, do you still want to get into a university?" Chen Xunji chuckled, his gaze still curious. "I was thinking of going to the zoo this weekend, want to come?" Chuj suddenly suggested. Chapter 27, The Qingmai Park Incident. The zoo? Why do you suddenly want to go to the zoo? Don't tell me you also saw the news from Qingmai Park today? Chen Xunji asked excitedly. As soon as the topic came up, he was over the moon. A lion is a lion, even a cub is not something a dog can provoke. Weren't there a lot of people hyping up pit bulls before? In the end, it was killed by a young lion, so impressive. Chuj narrowed his eyes. He hadn't expected the news to have already reached his classmates. In the era of big data, any rare event could quickly go viral on the internet. Tang Zujia turned around and said, "There were also pandas, vultures, wolves. This matter is too mysterious. What do you guys think the truth is?" Before Chuj could reply, a chubby boy behind him chuckled and said, "This shows that animals are becoming intelligent, and the era of spiritual energy revival is about to arrive." Everyone rolled their eyes at him, thinking he must have been bewitched by too many novels. "Stop talking nonsense. Are you coming or not?" Chuj held his chin with his right hand and said indifferently. He had yet to see the fate of the pitbull, but Survival Arena had already informed him that the spirit of the pitbull had reincarnated at a zoo in their city. He would check later on and should be able to find it. Sure, I'm in. Study rep, are you coming? Let's go together. We're in our senior year and we still haven't had the chance to get to know each other better. Chen Xunji raised an eyebrow and asked Tank Zujia with a smile, half-jokingly. Tank Zujia had been sitting in front of them for nearly 3 months, but their relationship hadn't grown any closer. Faced with the class beauty, it was inevitable that Chen Xunji harbored some expectations. Tank Zujia glanced at Chuj and smiled, alright, but I'll have to invite Jiayu. Songzio. Upon hearing this, Chen Xunji was instantly exhilarated. Chuj turned his head to look at him, his face calm. He was still reflecting on the brutality of the previous camp's survival competition. After enduring that task, he had truly transformed into a survivor. Go to the zoo? How about our whole class goes together? Think of it as our last trip in senior year, how about that? At that moment, a tall, thin boy with glasses stood up and spoke to the whole class. He sat in front of Tank Zujia and had been eavesdropping on the conversation of Chuj and the others the whole time. Yeah. Let's all go to the zoo together. What's there to enjoy at the zoo? I still haven't finished my 5-year college entrance exam, 3-year simulation. Sure, why not? The animal fight at King Mai Park made the trending search today. I want to go see the lions. I think wolves are more majestic. Did you see that video of the wolf fighting the pit bull? It was freaking brutal. You guys have all seen this news? So is it true? The whole class was excited, and most people were willing to go to the zoo. The topic quickly shifted to the King Mai Park news. Chen Xunji snorted and muttered, Zhao Ziaji sure knows how to seize an opportunity. So what if you're the class president? Class president Zhao Ziaji turned around and started chatting with Tank Zujia, while also giving Chen Xunji a provocative look. As if to say, yes, being the class president is indeed something to be proud of. Chuj didn't participate in the discussion, and was lost in his thoughts. A little while later, the English teacher returned to the classroom and called out to Chuj, Chuj, pack up your bag and go home. Your parents are frantic. They're planning to wait for you at home. Her tone was unpleasant. One look at Chuj, who didn't appear to have any issues, suggested that he had probably been hiding in an internet cafe the previous night, causing his parents to report to the police once again. Naturally, she was not fond of such a student. Chuj nodded and quickly packed his things. He slung his bag over one shoulder and, under the gaze of the whole class, left the classroom nonchalantly. Humphrey, it's our senior year, and you're still not studying hard. What kind of future can you have? Zhao Ziaji sat down and snorted. He looked righteous and held Chuj in contempt. Tank Zujia ignored him and opened her textbook, immersing herself in study. Students, senior year has come, and your first crossroads in life is upon you. Don't be tempted to play around, don't make your parents worry. Loyalty and filial piety are more important than grades. Attitude determines grades, and grades determine your starting point in society, understand? The English teacher began to preach about life's big truths after Chuj left. Chuj opened the front door with a nervous heart, and as soon as he entered, he felt the oppressive atmosphere hit him. Han Yujuan and Chu Fiqian were sitting on the sofa, both with very grim expressions on their faces. Even Han Yujuan didn't greet him with a smile when she saw him return. This was already the second time Chuj had disappeared unexpectedly. Han Yujuan had wanted to give Chuj a way out, fearing he might have been mistreated. However, seeing him spirited and his clothes clean, her anger surged. Not good. Chuj's heart sank. It looked like he was going to face a tag team scolding from his parents. After closing the door. Bang. Chuj immediately knelt on a hard-tiled floor with a loud noise that startled Han Yujuan into hurriedly standing up and running towards him. Chu Fiqian was also startled, but he tried to maintain his anger. This time, he had to severely punish Chuj. It was just too much. Dad, Mom, I am sorry, Chuj said through gritted teeth. Then, he showed a face full of pain, despair, and regret, feeling utterly hopeless. Seeing her son like this, Han Yujuan's heart immediately ached. She quickly grabbed Chuj, trying to pull him up. But no matter how she pulled, Chuj just wouldn't get up. What are you doing? Can't you speak up if there's something wrong? Why are you kneeling? You're a grown man, aren't you? Han Yujuan scolded, her eyes quickly filling with tears as she looked at her son. Let him kneel there. He's in his senior year of high school, not studying properly, skipping classes, and not coming home. Why don't you just die out there? Chu Fiqian roared furiously, frightening Han Yujuan. She turned around and snapped, why are you so fierce? Can't you see your son is in pain? In pain? He's in pain, and we aren't? We've already called the police for the second time. Look at this boy, don't tell me he's been bullied. I think he looks quite happy and carefree. Chufikian trembled with anger, and Chuj felt ashamed. It seemed the next time a survival challenge task came up, he would have to find an excuse to leave in advance. But this time, he could only bear it. Chufikian's anger was not subsiding, so Chuj remained kneeling. He knelt there for 3 hours. Chufikian's anger eventually dissipated, and he silently returned to the bedroom. Han Yujuan took this opportunity to pull Chuj up. Faced with his parents' inquiries, Chuj kept silent. Given his current identity and age, he could not find a perfect excuse. Better to remain silent than to offer a poor excuse. If he came back safe after disappearing multiple times, his parents would have to accept it eventually. After having dinner, Chuj returned to his bedroom. He lay in bed to rest. It wasn't until 11:30 at night that he turned off the lights, then entered the survival house. He called up the survival light curtain and exchanged a primary growth accelerant for 1,500 survival points. Immediately, a silver syringe appeared in his hand, filled with a forest green liquid. Chuj took a deep breath and, imitating the gesture of drawing blood, stabbed the needle into a vein on the back of his hand. Chapter 28, Advancement. 2 stars. After the injection of the primary growth accelerant, Chuj transformed directly into a young lion, and the moment he changed, he felt as if countless bugs were crawling inside him, causing an unbearable itching, and even a faint stabbing pain in his joints. He curled up on the sofa, drenched in cold sweat. This hurts way too much. Chuj clenched his teeth, now finally understanding what it meant to prefer death over life. And this was only the beginning of the pain. It grew more and more intense until he felt like every bone in his body was dislocated, his skin started to crack open, and blood oozed out, staining the sofa red. A whole hour passed. Chuj's torment finally ended, and he nearly fell apart. He still lay on the sofa, his body covered in blood, but now his size had increased significantly. He was no smaller than some adult large dogs, of course, but compared to an adult male lion, he was still quite small. Chuj wanted a mirror, and a full-length mirror appeared beside him. He examined his bloody self and let out a breath. The pain was worth it. Now, he looked as big as the gray wolves he had encountered before, still a bit smaller than an adult female lion, let alone the majestic adult male lions. Given the same size, wolves and dogs would definitely lose to him in a fight. He slowly stood up, feeling full of strength throughout his body, which enlivened his spirits. He immediately called up his attribute panel, Survivor, Chiudseki star rank, 1 star, upgradable, biting force, 185 forelimb strength, 156 hind limb strength, 198 speed, 172 physical strength, 102 survival entity, African lion survival skills, body color change, cheetah speed survival equipment, non-survival team, non-survival points, 300. All his attributes had skyrocketed, more than 5 times stronger than before, with biting force nearly reaching 20 times. Chuj was ecstatic. He had finally become truly strong. If just the primary growth accelerant was this amazing, how much stronger would the intermediate and advanced growth accelerants be? Would they make him age in just one go? Cough cough. That should be impossible. Chuj shook his head with a laugh, suddenly thinking of the pitbull and the gray wolf. Those two must have used growth accelerants, or they wouldn't be that big. For some of the higher grade species, using the initial 1,500 survival points to exchange for growth accelerants was most cost-effective. Apart from venomous insects, for the vast majority of species, size determines combat strength. He turned his attention back to the attribute panel, focusing on the upgradable option behind the star rank. Upgrading the rank requires 100 survival points. Would you like to upgrade? A line like that popped up in the light screen. Chuj hesitated for a moment, then chose to upgrade. Upgrading would certainly have more benefits. The next second, a column of light descended from the sky, enveloping his lion's body, giving him a warm feeling. You have successfully upgraded to a 2-star survivor. The survival arena rewards you with 1,000 survival points. Starting today, you can view the next survival competition task 5 days in advance. An emotionless female voice rang in Chuj's ear, surprising him once more. There were rewards for upgrading. Most crucially, he could know the next survival challenge task in advance. Though only 5 days early, it allowed him a head start in understanding the environment of the survival competition. The light dissipated, and Chuj felt his strength had increased yet again. His attribute panel updated accordingly. Survivor, Chiudseki star rank, 2 stars biting force, 231 forelimb strength, 181 hind limb strength, 210 speed, 181 physical strength, 123 survival entity, African lion survival skills, body color change, cheetah speed survival equipment, non-survival team, non-survival points, 1,200. All attributes had increased by either teens or 20s in their values. Chuj was pleased, but something felt off. Is this the only increase after advancing in rank? There was no transformative change as he had expected. Could there be some hidden settings that had not been announced? Chuj stopped pondering over it. He got up and headed for the primary training hall, took a shower first, then began to test his speed. A 50-meter sprint. His neck now bore slightly dark manes, sparse but distinctly lion-like, and as he ran, he became a yellow bolt of lightning. 3.31 seconds. A terrifying speed. He was exhilarated, so he ran again. 3.02 seconds. After running 4 times consecutively, he broke through to 2.53 seconds. The cheetah speed had fully integrated into Chuj's body. A cheetah's top speed can reach up to 110 km per hour, which translates to less than 4 seconds in a 100-meter race. It took Chuj longer to start and pick up speed than before, due to his significantly increased top speed. If he were to sprint for a while to accelerate before measuring his 50-meter sprint, his numbers would be even more exaggerated. Good, I can still improve more in this month, Chuj thought confidently, understanding he was approaching closer to being a top predator. He had 1,200 survival points left, which was enough to redeem another level 3 survival skill. Indeed, higher rewards come only with taking risks, Chuj murmured as he walked towards the survival house. In the battle at King Mai Park, if he had chosen to play it safe, he certainly wouldn't have taken off like he did now. However, he was also very lucky. He had just caught the vulture off guard. He could be confident, but must never be arrogant. Back at the survival house, the sofa looked brand new. He transformed back into human form and lay on the sofa, pulling up the holographic screen to check on the fate of the pit bull. A video window popped up in the screen, showing a large cage with many antelopes inside, zooming in on a small antelope. The little antelope lay in a corner, its gaze empty, motionless. Seeing this, Chuj let out a soft sigh. He did not pity the pit bull. The pit bull had shown him no mercy, and had the police not arrived in time, it might now be the pit bull watching his own end in a video. He just felt a complex sense of loss. He shook his head, wondering which zoo this was. Then, the video shifted, showing the entrance of the zoo. Nanwao City Zoo. It really can fully sense my intentions, Chuj sighed, forcing himself not to think too deeply, to avoid being overwhelmed by the implications. He watched for a while before turning it off. He hadn't slept for 2 days and needed a proper rest. The next morning, Chuj got out of bed to go to school under Chu Fiqiang's cold gaze. He didn't know what his parents would say about him once he left. Unable to explain, he simply tried not to overthink it. Arriving at school, he heard many students discussing King Mai Park along the way. The previous night, the video of the animal battle at King Mai Park had gone viral online. There were several versions, and although not very clear in the darkness, one could still make out the pit bull, the gray wolf, and the young lion. The incident was becoming more influential, and it was said that King Mai Park had been sealed off. When Chuj arrived in the classroom, he happened to run into the homeroom teacher, Zhuge Zubing. Zhuge Zubing glared at him and then began to lecture him. After 10 minutes, Zhuge Zubing left with his anger not completely subsided. Sitting at his desk, Chuj pulled out his textbooks, ready to review. Why aren't you panicking at all? Tang Zujia turned around, asking curiously. It wasn't just her, other students in the classroom also glanced at him frequently. Chapter 29 City Survivor Boss. What's there to panic about? If anyone should be panicking, it's him. If I disappear and don't come back, the school will have to take responsibility since I would have gone missing on school grounds. Chuj said with a tease of a smile. Even now, whenever he saw Tang Zujia, he would immediately think of her British short-hair cat. It was disgusting. After eating bugs, it would go lick her feet. Those bugs were survivors. With identities of humans. Just thinking about it made Chuj feel nauseous again. Chuj, you seem to keep a low profile normally, but why do I get the vibe you're quite sneaky? Tang Zujia said earnestly before she turned away. Chuj found it amusing. His eyes shifted as he said, Class representative, let's go to the zoo together this weekend. Hanging out with the class is so boring. He wasn't particularly interested in Tang Zujia, just bored with nothing to do. Having a pretty girl for company could lift his spirits. The British shorthair had caused him psychological trauma, so he wouldn't be developing feelings for Tang Zujia beyond that of classmates anytime soon. But he thought she wouldn't agree. After all, he had ruined her chance to go see the comic exhibition with Song Ziul that day. Tang Zujia tapped her lower lip with her pen and said with a pout, okay then. Chuj raised an eyebrow, surprised she had agreed. Could it be because he had become more handsome lately? He smiled but didn't continue the conversation and focused on his studies instead. As time went by, more and more students arrived in the classroom. When the bell for morning self-study rang, Everyone returned to their seats to start reviewing. Clap, clap. At that moment, applause broke out, and class president Zhao Ziyaji stood up at the lectern. He said seriously, "Classmates, we are in our senior year now. Apart from the sports meet, gym classes will be cancelled, and we'll have to come in on Saturdays, leaving almost no time to play. As class president, I want to organize a barbecue for us this Sunday. It might be our last chance to get together as a class, except for the graduation ceremony, and I hope everyone can make it." After he finished talking, a cheer erupted from the class. Compared to the zoo, most people preferred a barbecue. Chen Xunji sneered quietly, "There he goes, playing the lead role again." Chude showed no reaction, as if he hadn't heard Zhao Ziyaji's plans. Seeing the excitement among his classmates, Zhao Ziyaji smiled in satisfaction and continued, "Really, I hope everyone in the class comes. We're all part of Class 7, Senior 3, and it won't be the same if anyone's missing. I want us to create a lasting, beautiful memory of our youth. Each person should prepare 50 yuan. After we pay for the rental cars and food, any money left over can go into the class fund. What do you think?" Some agreed, others disagreed. Class funds again. A plump girl in the front row raised her hand and asked, "Do we have to go?" She looked annoyed, thinking that a single barbecue shouldn't cost that much. With so many people in the class, how much could each person actually eat? Probably only those students who usually stood out would be full in the end. It's best if everyone goes. Didn't you understand my point? I don't want you to have any regrets, Zhao Ziyaji said, pushing up his glasses and glancing at the plump girl. Suddenly, the classroom erupted into chaos. Tang Zujia turned and said with a smile, "Looks like you won't be able to go to the zoo after all." Chude stared at his textbook unblinkingly and responded, "It's the same thing I've always said, it's no fun with a crowd. I'm still going to the zoo. It's up to you whether you come or not. You've always been afraid of the class leader in high school. In the future, in the professional world, you are going to be the sternest and honest employee under your supervisor, doing whatever you are told to do." Tang Zujia furrowed her brow. These words were obviously not kind, but was it right to speak this way? "I just want you to go because my deskmate wants you there. Just come with us," Chen Xunji said excitedly. Although he often complained about Zhao Ziyaji, he didn't dare to really go against him. With Chude leading, he felt very thrilled. Tang Zujia thought for a moment and said, "All right then." The wild cookout was the talk of Class 3, Year 7 for quite a while until they quieted down when a teacher patrolling for the morning self-study session passed by. For the following days, Chude attended classes with peace of mind and didn't come into conflict with anyone in the class. After his rebirth, he realized he wasn't as overexcited as the characters in those rebirth novels. Initially, he found his classmates fascinating, but as time passed, he began to see them as childish. He became even more low-key, barely chatting with the students at the desks in front and behind him. In the blink of an eye, it was Saturday night. Chude was lying on his bed, about to enter the survival house, when his phone rang. He looked and saw it was a call from Jay Alf. "Hello, what's up? Bro, you actually survived the survival competition for the second time. How's it going? How many survival points do you have now?" 1,200. That many? Haven't you used any? "Yeah, I did. Just earned more." "Nice, I just joined a survival team. There's a big shot leading us, so it'll be much safer from now on. Let me tell you, this survival team is amazing. The leader is an American lion that's killed over 1,000. Jay Alf began to brag about the survival team he had just joined. Chude could feel his excitement from his voice. Killing over 1,000 was something Chude currently couldn't even imagine. How many survival competitions would one have to survive to accumulate those numbers? Chude listened attentively and didn't feel impatient at all. Having Jay Alf around, he could learn more about the survival arena. Once Jay Alf had finished, Chude asked, "What's the use of being 2 stars? I've just advanced to 2 stars, and I don't feel much change." "What? You advanced to 2 stars?" Jay Alf's voice suddenly shot up an octave. Chude found the sound grating and frowned. Is that a problem? He could sense the panic in Jay Alf's tone, which suggested it wasn't good news. 2 stars is a necessary step, but there's no need for rookies. The setup for gaining survival points differs with each star rank. The higher the rank, the more points. The points from kills are double the previous ranks, but the difficulty increases just the same. You're heading into the 2 stars competition without ample experience. Are you looking to die? Why didn't you consult with me beforehand? Jay Alf was frustrated. Hearing this, Chude's brow furrowed even deeper. So that's how it was. No wonder I could check the survival tasks 5 days in advance. I was thinking of introducing you to a survivor big shot in Nanlao City, getting you some real-world mentorship so you could live a more comfortable life. But seeing this, looks like you'll be off the radar in a month. A survivor big shot? How many survivors do you have contact with in reality? What do you know? We're all people who could die any time, so of course, we want to have as much fun as possible. This big shot is a major tycoon here. If you make it back alive, I'll take you to hang out in his company, earning a salary for nothing. Speak well on his behalf, and you'll get bonuses every month. Is it really that good? Is this guy overflowing with cash, or is he not right in the head? You don't understand. It's an exchange of favors. If he runs into trouble later, we'd also have to help him, right? Chapter 30 Human Form Exercise Wealthy Survivor Big Shot. As Chuj listened to Jaof's words, an idea suddenly stirred in his heart. If he wanted to provide a good life for his family, he needed money. If he could make money under that survivor's employment, it would also give him an excuse for his parents. He could just say he had to report in every month. The more he thought about it, the more feasible it seemed. Bro, can you hook me up? Chuj interrupted Jaof's endless chatter and asked. He was now a 2-star survivor, his strength was no weaker than Jaof's. And the past month of phone calls had made their relationship quite close. Chuj felt Jaof was worth getting to know deeply. If Jaof had the intention to harm him, after putting in so much time and effort, Chuj would be impressed. What if you die, wouldn't that slap me in the face? Jaof hesitated to say. Chuj rolled his eyes and said, I'll keep some survival points for myself, okay? Jaof laughed out loud, I'm just messing with you, I can talk to him about it, and if it's no problem, you can go directly to his company. When do you want to go? The two of them were not in the same city, and Jaof wasn't far from Nanwao City, as he lived in the neighboring province. How about next weekend? Chuj pondered and said. He had to go to the zoo tomorrow, so it could only be pushed to next weekend. Okay. Jaof agreed, and the two chatted for another 15 minutes before finally hanging up. It has to be said, Jaof really knew how to talk. Chuj even doubted his sexual orientation. Being able to talk to a guy for so long, did he even have time to chat up girls? He shook his head, then entered the primary training hall of the survival house. Lately, he had been using humanoid training. Besides the lion form, he felt it necessary to strengthen his human form as well. What if he encountered an enemy in real life? Better safe than sorry. The next morning at 8 o'clock. Dressed in a white shirt and black shorts, Chuj arrived at the school gate. Chen Xunji, Tang Zujia, and Song Zio were already there, along with other students from Class 7, Senior 3. Folks who haven't paid yet, hurry up. Class President Zhao Ziyaji called out. This dude was even wearing sunglasses, looking quite smug. He walked over to Tang Xujia and Song Zio, smiling. Xujia, I paid for you, consider it my treat. Chen Xunji curled his lip and said, Class President, why don't you treat me too? Song Zio winked and giggled at Tang Xujia. Buzz off. Zhao Ziyaji gave Chen Xunji a sidelong glance, too lazy to say a few more words. Tang Xujia shook her head and said, Thanks, Class President, but I don't need your treat. She didn't even smile, making Zhao Ziyaji feel awkward. Let's go. Chuj, with his hands in his pockets, came over and said nonchalantly. After speaking, he turned around and left. Chen Xunji, Tang Xujia, and Song Zio immediately followed him. Sorry, Class President, we have other plans. Song Zio waved and laughed at Zhao Ziyaji. Today, she wore a blue t-shirt and denim shorts with 2 ponytails, looking very youthful and lively. Although she wasn't as beautiful as Tang Xujia, she was still eye-catching. You guys. Zhao Ziyaji was stunned for a moment, but just as he tried to speak, Chuj and the others had already walked away. He wanted to follow, but a whole class of students was waiting for him. Although he was the class president, he couldn't force all his classmates to hang out with him. A few top students had already declined his offer, toiling away with mock exam papers in the classroom. Chuj and his group of 4 made their way to the bus station, waiting for the bus. Classmate Chu, you've changed a lot recently, daring to disrespect the class president. How come I've never noticed you being so cool before? Song Zio looked Chuj up and down, curiously asking. She had once harbored resentment towards Chuj because of the comic convention incident, but such are the fancies of a young girl, feelings come quickly and leave just as fast. After all, there had been no real conflict between them. Chuj chuckled and said, I had a fever before, and it burnt my brain awake. The 2 girls were amused by his joke, and Chen Xunji chuckled, how did you get that fever? What kind of fever makes you run so fast? He couldn't forget the scene where Chuj had overtaken him that day. The speed Chuj exhibited had shocked him deeply. It's simple, just stay in a refrigerator for a day, Chuj said with a laugh. The bus arrived. He took out his bus card, ready to board. Chen Xunji's eyes widened and he said, You're kidding me, that would freeze someone to death. He wondered to himself if that could really be possible. Let's get on the bus first, today we have to take lots of photos, said Tangzujia, holding Song Zio's arm and smiling. Once on the bus, Chuj moved quickly and snagged a seat, while Tangzujia and Song Zio stood next to him, signaling him with their eyes. Chuj pretended not to see and closed his eyes, saying, "I'm tired, tell me when we get there." With that, he began to sleep. This statement was true, for he had not gone to bed until 4 in the morning the previous night. Because he discovered many new features in his survival skills, he went through them one by one, which took a lot of time. This guy's got it made, he won't have a girlfriend sticking to him in the future, Song Zio said with a smile, though her smile was somewhat cold. Tangzujia, on the other hand, wasn't bothered as she could tell that Chuj was genuinely tired. Chen Xunji stood beside them, wanting to strike up a conversation, but he was too nervous in front of the two beautiful girls and didn't know what to say. It was okay when Chuj was awake, but now that he was asleep, the introvert's personality suddenly came to the fore. The two girls chatted with each other, still talking about King Mai Park. About 40 minutes later, Chuj was awoken by a tap from Tangzujia, and he opened his eyes sharply, startling Tangzujia with his intense gaze. "Are we there yet? Good. Let's go." Chuj yawned and then stood up. Song Zio pulled Tangzujia off the bus, while Chen Xunji, full of pent-up excitement, began to chat eagerly with Chuj. Tangzujia was somewhat dazed as she recalled Chuj's sharp look just now. It was the first time she had seen such a piercing gaze. It reminded her of the fierce beasts she'd seen in documentaries. After disembarking, Chuj and Chen Xunji walked in front. It was a weekend, yet Nanwao City Zoo wasn't very busy. To the locals, the zoo wasn't a place worth visiting repeatedly. The quartet reached the ticket hall to purchase their tickets and didn't have to queue for long. 5 minutes later, they walked out of the hall. "Which section do we visit first?" Chen Xunji asked. He occasionally glanced at Tangzujia and Song Zio, thinking he was doing a good job hiding it, but Chuj saw right through him. A boy's heart is always restless. "Of course we're going to see the zebras first," Song Zio said eagerly. Chuj followed up, "Let's visit the antelopes first, I have a friend waiting for me there." "A friend?" The three of them were taken aback, as Chuj hadn't mentioned meeting another friend earlier. They all felt a bit awkward because they didn't know Chuj's friend. "He's inside a cage, if you catch my drift," Chuj said, shaking his head. He had come here just to see what had become of the pit bull. It wasn't that he wanted to mock the pit bull, he just wanted to remind himself. "Do you come here often?" Tangzujia asked in puzzlement. Chuj headed toward the entrance, gesturing with his hand, "Just come see and you'll understand."